All right, we are live. Hey, everybody. Hey, chat room. This is the pre-show for today's 221,001 Core 1 A+ study group. Oh, we've got plenty of Q&A ready for you. And it's the pre-show, so we're just getting things ready. All right, recordings are going here, and recordings are going up there. That's good. Hello, chat room. I need to pop out the chat so I can actually read it. It's way over there. Now it's way over here. That's better. And can't fit everything on my screen the way I want it to fit on my screen anymore. All right, we'll put that there. What else is going on here? Oh, I think we're in pretty good shape. I think we've got questions ready. Oh, you know what I don't have up and running is the Skype. Skype goes there, and presentation goes here. There we go. That looks good. I think now we're in good shape. You can kind of see what I see, which are these 4 boxes in the middle. Those are my 4 video inputs, and they are all there. If any one of those is not there, then we're in trouble. Oh, hello, chat room. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, LA. In Oregon and Bolivia and Ghana and India and England. There's more folks checking in from other locations than the United States. San Antonio, welcome. There's London again, the Bahamas. When is the next Security Plus study group? You can always find out at professormesser.com/calendar. Or look at the calendar, the right sidebar of the professormesser.com website. It's next Security Plus study group is later on the month. I want to say it's the 30th. I think that's top of mind for some reason, but it's in the 30th. I think it's the 30th. So that's what that is. Hello, St. Vincent in South Carolina, Atlanta, Pakistan, welcome. Skala, thanks for joining us. India, Georgia, South Africa, Nigeria, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and of course, Mars. Now, there are places actually called Mars here in the United States. So you might actually be from somewhere in the United States called Mars. Or you might actually be on Mars. And so there you go. There you go from that. California, Kentucky, New Mexico. When will 601 videos be released? Well, there are how many now? 80 that have been released? There's quite a few that have been released. So the additional videos will be released as I complete them. I'm going as fast as I can. I'm pedaling as fast as I can go. And I promise you, I'm making them as quickly as a human being can make them. I want to get them done as quickly as possible, but there's a lot. There's 178 videos that are going to be created, and I've got 80, I think, posted. Is it 80 or 86? I need to look now. Let's find out. Since you're looking over my shoulder here, you can look over my shoulder with me. And we'll pop over to my stats. So I have posted 87, which technically is 49.43% of them so far. However, I have, as we say, in the can, another 13. Did I do 14 videos? At least 12 or 13 more to go that I have not edited. I have not edited them. They have not gone through the editing process. So there's more stuff coming. There's plenty more stuff coming for sure. More people checking in from Ethiopia and Guatemala and Miami, Onkayocho, and there's Ohio, Dallas, Texas, Melbourne. Good to see you. There's Canada. Welcome. Do I translate? I don't translate. There's no translation. We go from English to worse English, I guess, from here. Let me try my lower thirds. So I have a few things to try here on my preview. Actually, this would not be on preview. This would be on here. There's that graphic, and then there's that graph. Okay, we're in pretty good shape. We'll put that there. We'll put this here, put that there. I think we're in good shape. We got about 5 minutes to go. This is not the show. For those of you joining us for the first time, you're wondering, this is the worst show ever. Well, perhaps. However, we haven't started yet. So we got another 5 minutes before we get going. This is me checking mic levels. This is me checking video, making sure I have the graphics set up properly, making sure that things don't always work here. I don't know if you've watched this before, but things don't always work here. So today they are working. So we're going to go with that. I like it when things are working. But we are in, and of course, a good chance for me to check in. And although I can't, there's so many people in the chat room as things are going by from Nevada and New Hampshire and Hawaii and Sacramento and Baltimore and Atlanta and Peterborough, I think it is, in the UK, and Jacksonville and the Netherlands. What do I think, Pentest or CISA? I think both of those, I guess. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you want to do. My philosophy on security certifications has really been very focused, which is figure out what job you want, figure out what they're asking for, go get those things. Security is sort of all over the place. It's such a broad and wide area of expertise. You could end up working in IT security and never do a pen test. You could end up working in pen test and never touch a firewall. So there's such differences there. There's something for everybody, as they say. So there you go. There's Orlando. Hello, Orlando. I'm assuming, no, your name is not Orlando. You live in Orlando. That's the difference. Almost 3 minutes to go. Just over 3 minutes. Oh, boy. I like mobile development too, but I'm not a good programmer, so I don't do that. Isn't that great? I have all these things I'd love to be able to do. I'd love to be able to write mobile apps, play the guitar, and I don't know. And that's about it. But the challenge, of course, is that I'm not good at programming and I'm not good at playing the guitar. So there's just certain things in life I'm going to have to deal with being not so good at. And I'm super good at being not good at a lot of things. What is the link for questions and answers? We'll go through all of that in a moment, but it's professormesser.com/QA. I now have a lower third for it. So that's not the lower third. That's the title bar. There's the graphic I made for the answer page. professormesser.com/QA, which is your answer. Not really answer page, but that's what it says. And I'll bring that up in just a moment. We'll be able to look at these. Make sure they work. We got about 2 minutes left. Oh, boy. Callum, just landed your first job as a junior security analyst. Congratulations. It wasn't thanks to my material. It's thanks to you watching the material and learning it. Congratulations. Entry-level security jobs are tough to come by. So that is two big ones. That's a huge thing. That's an enormous set of congratulations that needs to go to you, because that is a challenge. Just finding the opportunity and then getting it is remarkable. I think that's fantastic. Matthew says you passed your 1001 on Friday. Congratulations. And thank you. You say you cannot recommend the practice tests enough. Thank you. We spend a lot of time writing those. And by we, I mean me. I say we in the royal sense. Do you see anyone else here? This is me. I've got other people. Lori's doing the replays, and I've got my daughter also working here and doing some things too, but all the writing is me. Anything content that is written, I write personally. I want to say it gives us that's the advantage we bring to the table, is that you're now getting Q&A written by somebody who's been in the industry, someone who understands the standards, someone who's been through the installation of these things and troubleshooting and has actually done it before. All right, let's put all of that on a piece of paper and make practice tests and videos and that kind of thing. So I never farm that stuff out. I think I sort of lose that if we do that. So that's why for those of you waiting on the 601 videos, that's why it takes months to produce those 100 and something videos, because I'm the one producing it. And I'm slow, so slow. I'm fast as I can go. I'm as fast as I can go given the level of quality I want to put out. That's the difference. Do you still go to the centers to write the exam? You can. Do you do it from home because of COVID? You can. Not just because of COVID, but it's going to be that way ongoing from now until. So there will always be an online version of this that you could do. You know, I've got a Keynote on here somewhere. There it is. Hey, Keynote. get this going. And a green light. There's a green light. Nice. I think we're ready for live stream, everybody. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 2021 Professor Messer Core 1. I guess that's our 221,001 Core 1 A Plus study group. Make sure we get the right study group ready to go here. If you're tuning in live, thanks for joining us live. If you're watching this in the replay, that's just as good as well. We're going to have plenty of Q&A for you in this first hour that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. There will be so much information that we have in here. We will go through exactly what we're going to be talking about in this first hour. I'll be asking you the questions in the first hour. In the second hour, I will turn on the exam call-in lines, the studio lines. I'll take questions from the chat room. There's a lot of stuff we do in the second hour, which is more of an after show than anything. Before this first hour, I'm going to ask you questions. The questions you can answer online if you're watching this live, and you can answer them online by opening up a new browser window and going to professormesser.com/QA. Go to professormesser.com/QA. There's a question waiting for you right there, as a matter of fact. You can also get an app for your mobile device that you can use. That app is called the Socrative Student app. There it is right there. That's what you're looking for. There's a Socrative Teacher app. That's the one for me. Socrative Student app. That's the one for you. And on that app, it will ask you for a room name. The room name is Professor Messer, all one word, PROFESSORMESSER. Make sure you spell it right or you won't be able to see any questions. It's one of those important things. So Professor Messer, PROFESSORMESSER. If I can spell it, you can spell it, and apparently that's still up for grabs. If you do all of that, there will be a question waiting for you, and that question asks, a drive in a RAID 10 array has failed. Which of the following would be the best way to resolve this issue? This is a question from last month's study group because we like to make sure that you're able to get in and answer the questions. This is our rewind question from last week. The possible answers are replace all drives and rebuild the array, replace the bad drive and restore from backup, replace the bad drive and rebuild the array, replace all drives and restore from backup, or no additional actions are required. And if you think you know that answer, you go to professormesser.com/QA and you can lock in your answer. Please no hints in the chat room. Please no hints or even answers in the chat room. We'll come back to that in just a moment. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We have got so much to go through. For those of you in the chat room that were talking earlier in the pre-show about our Security Plus videos, they are coming up constantly. I think I put 3 of them online yesterday. So a lot are there. You can find them on YouTube, and you can subscribe to the channel and click the bell and do all those things that you should be doing at professormesser.com/YouTube. There's also a daily pop quiz question for A+. You can find that pop quiz question on my Twitter feed at professormesser.com/Twitter. There is a pretty picture version of it available, or I'd like to think it's a pretty picture, on Instagram, professormesser.com/Instagram, which is kind of a fun way to get your daily pop quiz question in. There are also Network Plus and Security Plus pop quiz questions once a week on there as well. It's a good way to keep track of what we're doing here. Also, we've got continuing education unit credit. I'll be sometime in this first hour giving you an overview of how you can earn that. If you're someone who collects CEUs, you can collect up to 4 of these webinar category CEUs in a 3-year period, and I'll be glad to give you one of those for this. So there's plenty to go through as we step through this. Now, we'll be talking all about the 221,001 today. This is a certification that has been around since January 15th, 2019. I've seen online some people mentioning or thinking that this certification exam retires this year. But that's not the case at all. Best case scenario, and this might even be pushed out further, I would expect this would be retired around the July timeframe of next year. So if you're watching this here in March of 2021, you have plenty of time to take these exams. They're usually average 2 to 3 months apiece for most people, I guess. So plenty of time to be able to take this. Don't worry about retirement. It's not retiring anytime soon. Don't worry. It's not going away. You're not going to miss anything. And certainly never wait for the next version of an exam just to get certified. Having that exam in your pocket is much more valuable. This exam is the 221001 we're talking about today. It's graded on a scale from 100 to 900. You need to earn a 675. Still don't know what that means, but it's a certain point scale they use. Every question's worth a different number of points. They don't tell us anything about how they grade it. Just do the best you can. As long as it's over 675, you've passed your exam. Some people have communicated to me recently about older study materials they might have from the 900 series. And I always tell people to throw away the 900 series. You don't want any of those old materials if you're studying for this exam. And the reason is that just in the 221001, over 20% of the exam is brand new. Those topics are not going to be in your 900 series exam. And trust me, if you walked into the exam not knowing 20% of it, you're probably not going to have a good time. It's probably going to be a bad scene for you at the end of that exam. So make sure all of your study materials say that they are for the 221001 or the 221002. Look at them right now. Make sure that's what they say, and you'll be in good shape. Today, we're going to talk about topics from that 221001. Those topics include mobile devices, networking, hardware, virtualization and cloud computing, and hardware and network troubleshooting. And we'll have a smattering of all of those that we will describe as we go through this. Of course, all of my videos are available for you to watch online for free. I know, the entire course, it's there. Every minute of every video you can watch on YouTube for no money. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? But yet here we are. There are some people that would like an offline version of these videos. I, of course, have that available along with audio MP3 versions. I have course notes, practice exams. I have access to this study group. I have an exam hacks ebook that I wrote about the exam process, which isn't necessarily about A+. It's about how do you take an exam at Pearson VUE? What should you prepare for? What are some strategies you can use during the exam? All of this is bundled together in one single package on my website. It is my A+ Success Bundle, either the Success Bundle for the 221001 or the 221002. If you would like to see more about that, you can go to professormesser.com/1001success and find out more information about that Success Bundle. There are also some free Q&A on the website. You can find that at professormesser.com/take10. Those are my take 10 questions, 10 questions on where you can get A+ Network Plus Security Plus content. These are archived right from the study groups, so I've written all of these as well. There's hundreds of questions there. You can find out more details at professormesser.com/take10. A video replay of this study group is available immediately afterwards on YouTube. You simply, as soon as I hit the stop button, it takes a minute or two to update itself, and then it's available for you to watch immediately. There is also an audio version of this available on replay. It is a podcast version, so if you have a podcast listening program, it'll download automatically the instant I post it, and you can also stream it from the website. You can find that at professormesser.com/podcast. If you've ever gone out to YouTube about a day after this event is over, you'll notice that the YouTube video description has timestamps where it knows exactly when a question was asked, when the answer showed up, when people called in, what did they call in about. All of that is detailed on here. That doesn't happen automatically. It happens because my marketing manager, Lori, who's watching this now, hi, Lori, she's going through this entire event and putting timestamps into the video description. So more power to her. If that's something you folks really like, feel free to say hi to Lori in the chat room. She watches the live stream and watches the live chat replay as it goes by at the same time. So if there's anything you'd like to say to Lori, now's the time. Give her a hello and a thank you, because that does come in very, very handy for people that are going back and looking through that content. Don't forget about my course notes. We're almost to the point where we're going to answer that question, aren't we? The course notes are available also on my website because my videos are 137 videos for A+. Almost 19 hours, 18 and a half hours of content. That's a lot of notes you would be taking. So I've made notes for you that are directly from the exam objectives. The notes contain everything from my videos. They are structured in the same format and order as my videos. They are extensive. And every dollar you you spend on those course notes goes back to keeping everything going here. So it's a win-win, I think, for everybody. You can find out more about that at professormesser.com/1000notes. There are both digital and physical versions available. They're identical to each other, but some people like to have that book version. And there's a link just under the pricing list where you can switch between digital and physical for those course notes. professormesser.com/1001notes. So let's talk about that question we had earlier, which was a drive in a RAID 10 array has failed. Which of the following would be the best way to resolve this issue? Would it be replace all drives and rebuild the array? Would it be to replace the bad drive and restore from backup? Would it be to replace the bad drive and rebuild the array? Would it be to replace all drives and restore from backup? Or is there no additional action required? Which would it be? 67% of you say you would replace the bad drive and rebuild the array. 27% say to replace the bad drive and restore from backup. And just single digits for no additional actions, replacing all drives and restoring from backup, and replacing all drives and rebuilding array. So none of you think we should replace all the drives, which I think is a very good idea. But we're kind of mixed on, once you replace the bad drive, do you simply rebuild the array or do you restore from backup? That's really the question. And it goes back to the type of RAID that we are using. RAID 10, which is also known as RAID 1+0, is one where you can lose all but one drive from each set of mirrors and you're still up and running. So this is one of those situations where you can lose a drive and it may be that nobody even realizes that you've lost a drive. There's a visual picture of RAID 1+0. So if you lost one of these mirrors, because these are mirrors of each other in this RAID and that RAID and this RAID, and we're putting a little bit of data in this RAID and a little bit of data in that RAID and a little bit of data in that RAID. So if we lost two drives in the same RAID array here, in the same RAID 1 array, then we would be in trouble. But if we only lost one, well, we got a duplicate right next to it. So we can lose a drive and everybody's still up and running, which is fantastic. One of the challenges you have with this is if you lose both of those, then that's a problem. In fact, in this picture, I could lose 3 drives and still be up and running. I could lose this drive, I could lose this drive, and I could lose that drive, and we'd still be up and running. So I could lose 3 drives in that view, and we would still be in good shape. Probably we wouldn't be in good shape. You don't want to lose 3 drives, but your data would still be there. Everything would be operational. You'd be up and running, but you would have a lot of work to do. The way that you fix those is you remove the bad drive, you put in a new drive, and you rebuild the array. You effectively take everything from the drive that's still there, and you tell it, please duplicate that data. And it'll go through. If that's a big drive, it's got to spend all the time transferring all of that information back over. It may take hours or even days in some cases to rebuild the array. And then once that's done, you're back up and running. So that's what you would need to do. I think most of us thought that would be the good idea, and you're right. Replacing the bad drive and rebuilding the array is the correct answer. 67% of you chose that one, and 67% of you are absolutely right. Well done. So that is our rewind question. Hopefully it's something you remembered from last month. If you weren't here last month, then there's something new that you just learned, and that's always good too. Some folks in the chat room were just mentioning questions about performance-based questions, and how timely is that? Because our next question is a performance-based question. In fact, our first new question every month is a different performance-based question. So I have a performance-based question for you here next, coming up in just a moment. For those of you that have never taken the exam before, you don't get all multiple choice. Like the one we just did was multiple choice, where you get a question and you can choose from multiple answers that are available. But CompTIA doesn't give you the entire exam like that. They give you a handful of questions at the beginning that are performance-based questions. What they mean by that is that it's anything but multiple choice. It could be a fill-in-the-blank question. It could be a matching question. It could be a drag-and-drop question. It could be one where you're configuring a system. You're putting things in a particular order from highest to slowest, fastest to slowest, or highest to lowest. You've got questions where they might bring up a command prompt and have you perform a function. So that's one of those situations where you really do need to understand what's in the exam objectives, because they could ask the question of you in many different ways. You have to answer the question however they're asking it. So the one I have for you today is a matching question. And our performance-based question of the month asks, match the technology to the printer. And I have different printer types. This did not look very good. If you're looking at this online, the question did not get formatted very well. But at least you can see that I have 4 different technologies and I have 6 different printer types. So there's going to be 2 printer types left over at the end of this, if you want to think of it that way. We will only use 4 of these. This is a lot of the techniques they use on the exam. So for those of you listening in and watching, let's go through all 4 of these technologies. The technologies are a plastic filament, ribbon, fuser, and XPS. So for those technologies, here are the printers: inkjet, thermal, virtual, impact, 3D, and laser. The technologies, again, are plastic filament, ribbon, fuser, and XPS. The 6 different printers are inkjet, thermal, virtual, impact, 3D, and laser. We're only going to be choosing 4 of those different printers. If you already think they're in the right order, you would answer A1, B2, C3, and D4, and you'd be done. That is not the answer, by the way. So that is what you want to put in at professormesser.com/QA. Lock in your answer right there. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. From the chat room, if you fail the test, is there a waiting period before you can take it again? Well, there is a retake policy on the CompTIA website. You can find that by typing in CompTIA retake policy into the Google machine. And I believe, if I recall properly, you can take the first retry, you can take immediately. The second retry after that, or I guess your third attempt to take the exam, and every subsequent attempt has a waiting period of, is it 14 days? I want to say it's 14 calendar days. I don't think it's 30. I think it's 14 calendar days. So you can immediately turn around and take it immediately after you fail the first time. But every time after that, there's a waiting period. So they kind of wait for you. Also, question in the chat room, do you get partial credit on these questions? What if you get 3 out of 4? Do you get partial credit? CompTIA has said on their website definitively, they have written down and told us, maybe. That was literally the answer from their website. They say, sometimes we give partial credit, sometimes we don't. So that doesn't help us at all. So, but at least they're telling us we're not going to tell you. And that's on their website. If you're looking for that, it's a frequently asked questions, a test frequently asked questions on the CompTIA website. That's what you should search for to find all of those. So those are the things you would find. Now, on this question, of course, there will be 2 answers, 2 printer types that we're not going to use. So let's step through all of these and see if we can figure out what they are. Let's start with the very first one, plastic filament. What type of printer would use a plastic filament technology? Well, the only one in that list that would use a plastic filament is a 3D printer. 3D printers are great. You can put the filament into it. It heats up the filament, and then you can make something in 3D from that printer. Build out a number of different things. Effectively build out tools. There's a 3D printer on the International Space Station. We can send plans up, print something out, and then they have a tool or something that they can use right there on the International Space Station, which is kind of a neat idea. There is also, the next one on our list is a ribbon printer. A ribbon in a printer is used on an impact printer. There are some printers that use ribbons that are not impact, but of the list of printers that we had there and the ones you need to know, an impact printer is going to be the only one really using a ribbon, at least the type of fabric ribbon that we think of, because you have something pressing those dot matrix pins into the paper. There needs to be a ribbon in the middle so that you can see something on the paper. Becomes useful. Next on our list was the fuser. A fuser is used with a laser printer. A fuser is that device at the end or near the end of the laser printing process that heats the paper and all the toner and effectively melts it and permanently fastens it to the printed page. That is your fuser, and you're going to find that on a laser printer. If you didn't have a fuser, then you would have toner everywhere. It would not stick. You'd smear everywhere. You've probably seen that before. And last on our list, XPS. XPS is a file type that is used with virtual printouts. Many people think of a PDF as being virtual output, and it is. But Microsoft has their own format because, they're Microsoft. They need their own format. So XPS is their version of a PDF, if you want to think of it that way. And the XPS format is used with virtual printers. Well, that means there were two printer types we did not use. Inkjet printer we didn't use. The inkjet printer has other types of usefulness associated with it, and a thermal printer. Thermal printer is one that can be used for the things that we are using. A thermal printer, like heating receipt printers, very commonly a thermal printer, for example. Those are technologies that we did not use in this list. So to summarize, plastic filament is 3D, ribbon is impact, fuser is laser, XPS is virtual, and then inkjet and thermal, we ended up not getting in there. There are a lot of printer questions that come from those. It's a single section of a domain. And it seems like a lot of people get stuck with printer in their brain. I guess for a lot of us, we've never worked with 3D printers, or maybe you've never worked with virtual printing or even laser printing. If you have printers at home, not a lot of us have laser printers in our home, but it's so common to see these printer types in an enterprise that you need to know a little bit about all of them. And they are certainly part of the exam objectives and something you should know for your exam as well. Make sure you're familiar with all of these. And if you're not, feel free to go back and have a look at those printer sections. Let's get another question on our list. I have some multiple choice questions for you. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and have a look at this next question, which asks, which of the following would describe iOS integration into an automobile? And now, why isn't it showing me that on my list of questions online? Now my questions online aren't the right ones. And that's obviously a significant problem if we get to that point. There we go. Now you're seeing the right question online. Which of the following would describe the iOS integration into an automobile? Would the possible answers be Apple Auto, iOS CarPlay, Apple Music, iOS Drive, or iCloud Car? Would it be Apple Auto, iOS CarPlay, Apple Music, iOS Drive, or iCloud Car? If you think you know the answer, lock in your answer by going to ProfessorMesser.com/QA. And you can lock that in. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room so that you can lock in what you think that answer happens to be. If you're watching this on the replay, that link won't be available to you. That QA link is only if you're here live. And if you'd like to be here live, you can always check the calendar at ProfessorMesser.com/calendar. And you can, of course, go back and enjoy that. If you're here live, you get to, of course, answer live online, which is kind of fun. But you can also ask questions live in the chat room. So hopefully I'm able to I can't hit all the questions coming through. A lot of the questions coming in through the chat line, through the chat when we're in this first hour. In the second hour, we have plenty of time. We can really go through a lot of the questions there. So stick around for that second hour when we have our after show. Be glad to go through some of those as well. You can see the answers are coming in now. We've got a number of you that have answered this. So let's see how we did with this one. The question asked, which of the following would describe the iOS integration into an automobile? Is that Apple Auto, iOS CarPlay, Apple Music, iOS Drive, or iCloud Car? 69% of you say that's called CarPlay. 15% said Apple Auto. 11% said iOS Drive. Only 4% said Apple Music. And only 2% said iCloud Car. I kind of like iCloud Car. Why didn't we use that one in our list of iCloud Car? Now, syncing what your car to your phone has become quite a thing. Being able to have sort of all the functionality of your phone without having to look at your phone when you are driving. because you don't want your phone to be a distraction when you're on the road. You should be paying attention to the road. But there's still times when you may want to change the music, have a look at the map, be able to understand some of these other features. So we have extended the phone really into our cars. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. The key, of course, is that you're going to keep your hands on the wheel. The two probably most popular technologies for this is iOS CarPlay and Android Auto. Those are the two that you will commonly find in cars. In fact, if you're buying a car, it's worth asking the question, does this support, depending on the type of phone you have, iOS CarPlay, or does this support Android Auto? Will it be able to integrate with those? Those are good questions to have as you go through this. And of course, if you're someone who is wanting to integrate all the bells and whistles in your car, this is great functionality. For an iOS integration, it's called iOS CarPlay, and a number of you knew about that one because 69% of you chose iOS CarPlay. In fact, the only thing in here other than CarPlay that was an actual product is Apple Music, which is a real product from Apple, but not the one that integrates with your car. All these others I made up. So there is no Apple Auto. It was Android Auto. So I sort of made that one up. I sort of did a play on that one. I have iOS Drive and iCloud Car. So all of those become pretty useful. Is this on the exam objectives? In fact, it is. It comes directly from my video, section 1.7 of your exam objectives. And specifically, this video is called Mobile Device Synchronization. Everything we do in this study group comes directly from the CompTIA exam objectives, including this answer for iOS CarPlay that 69% of you got absolutely right. Let's do another multiple choice question since you're wondering about what's supported and what is not supported. Here we go. We got a question here that asks, what is the largest channel bandwidth supported by 802.11 AC? Is it 40 megahertz, 80 megahertz, 160 megahertz, 240 megahertz, or 520 megahertz? What's the largest channel bandwidth supported by 802.11 AC? Is that 40 megahertz, 80 megahertz, 160 megahertz? We have 240 megahertz and 520 megahertz. We have quite a few there to work through. Let's see if you know what that answer is. The largest channel bandwidth supported by 802.11 AC. So this is one where you do need to know the answers. Please, no answers in the chat room, no hints in the chat room, no questions about this in the chat room. We're going to pretend we're taking the exam. There's no tools available. We can't search the internet. We have to be able to answer it. So hopefully you'll be familiar with these. This does come in handy to know this number because when you're setting up your 802.11 AC network, you will absolutely be able to set different settings, and you may want to set a large channel bandwidth. Let's see if you happen to know what it is. This is one that does, that's pretty important to know as well, because you may have this situation where you are in a busy area, you may not have all this bandwidth available, or somebody may say, we're in an area where nobody else is around, we want the highest throughput possible, so perhaps you want to create the largest bandwidth available in that platform. So you need to know what to set it to. We need to know what's available to be able to do this. So make sure you are familiar with all of these. This is one also that I think is useful to know because it's part of that 802.11 AC standard and certainly something you need to know for your exam. So make sure you're familiar. This becomes very useful. This live study group does count as continuing education for A+, and because we cover security topics, we cover networking topics, it also applies for Network Plus and Security Plus as well. The CEUs and the parameters for that only require that you discuss, or part of this discusses a certain amount of those topics. So, and we do discuss these types of topics on all of those exams. So I think it would count for all of them. You can always check your statistics. Let's see how you did with this one. We'll break through this. The question asked, what's the largest channel bandwidth supported by 802.11 AC? Is that 40, 80, 160, 240, or 520 megahertz? And we have 41% of us that say it's 240 megahertz. 28% say that it's 160 megahertz. 14% say 80, 11 say 520, and 6% say 40. So quite a number to go through for these. You can almost see the 11%. There we are at the bottom. But the question is, how much is it really? What is the bandwidth? Well, if you are on 802.11ac, we need to break through all of these. The bandwidth is how much of the wireless frequencies we are able to use at any particular time in that particular standard. And the question for A is that it is 20 megahertz. B is almost the same. It's a different type of communication that's used on B, but it's about the same, which is 22 megahertz. We got 802.11g. That is 20 megahertz. Then we realized about that point, we're going to need faster networks. We want to go much faster than these earlier technologies can take us. So what if we were able to increase the size, the amount of traffic we were able to send across these networks? So with 802.11n, we can either have a 20 or a 40 megahertz amount of bandwidth that we would be using. Well, then, of course, as we were planning for the next generation of wireless, we realized it's fast, but it's not fast enough, which is the mantra of wireless networking. It's never fast enough. So let's go faster. And for 802.11ac, we can have 160 megahertz of either contiguous or non-contiguous bonded channels as a total amount of bandwidth that you can use on 802.11ac. So 160 megahertz, that's how much of that frequency range we are using in the wireless frequencies. And that is the one that you would be looking for as the answer to this question, which is 160. So 160 is the answer in this particular case. 27% of you chose 160 megahertz, but that is the answer that we were looking for. This is megahertz. This is the amount of bandwidth we are using in the wireless spectrum. This is not about the speed of the technology. This is about how much of the wireless spectrum we were using to be able to transmit communication over this link and finally have amount of bandwidth available. So this is one that is pretty important to know about from a wireless perspective, because if you look at, I guess, in a particular range of frequencies that you have available. In fact, here's a good example of it. For the 2.4 gigahertz, you have, if you look at those 20 megahertz blocks, they go in a range from around 2,412 megahertz to 2,482. We talk about the 2.4 gigahertz range. That's the 2,400 megahertz range, 2.4 gigahertz. There's not a lot of room there, you'll notice. You have 3 blocks that you can really choose from that are individual blocks that don't overlap between those 3. That's why we introduced the 5 megahertz spectrum. So for 20, if you want to see how many 20 megahertz blocks, everything that is not red can be used in 5 gigahertz. So, and you can have bonded channels where you can bond them together and use much larger channels. So down here at the bottom, for example, are the 160 megahertz channels, which effectively bonds together all of these separate blocks to create one big block that you can communicate much faster over. Much more data can go across the network because you're using more of that available wireless spectrum to be able to do that. But if you only stayed at 20 megahertz, look at all of the different, everything that's not red, look at all of those different 20 megahertz channels you'd be able to use compared to what you have in 2.4 gigahertz. What a difference. What uses the red channels? It depends on the frequencies and countries that you're in, but those in the United States are not available. In North America are not available. I forget if that's aviation or a different, there's so many different types of services that fit into all of those. It could be emergency services. It could be a GPS type frequency. It could be used for local. It could be used for, there's so many different purposes. But the FCC and ARRL, which is the American Radio Relay League, Amateur Radio Relay League, American Radio Relay League, they have some great frequency charts if you ever want to get in there and see what does communicate at that frequency. They have amazing frequency charts that can break that out for you. And see exactly who is communicating. If I can't communicate there, who's using that? And very often something can't be easily moved, like aviation or emergency services, and that's why they're red. They're stuck there. So the answer in this case, 160 megahertz. That is the one you would use. 28% of you chose that. That would be the right answer. It would not be 240 megahertz. That's much too much bandwidth. We're not using quite so much bandwidth on our wireless frequencies yet. But 802.11ac was the question for this one, and that is the answer, where AC has a maximum of 160 megahertz that can be used. Knowing those frequencies and the details of exact numbers here isn't important, but the idea of this picture is important. Understanding really the differences between how much room is available to communicate at 2.4 gigahertz versus 5 gigahertz is an important consideration, especially when you're planning your wireless networks. Just something to keep in mind. Let's do another question. I've got another one here for you. Next one on this list is, which of the following would be the best choice for a video editing workstation? Would that be an SSD? Would it be high-end cooling? Would it be a gigabit NIC? Would it be a TV tuner? Or would it be a RAID array? Which of the following would be the best choice for a video editing workstation? Is it an SSD, high-end cooling, gigabit NIC, TV tuner, or RAID array? If you think you know the answer, hit that link that's on your screen, professormesser.com/QA. Lock in your answer. That would be the thing you would want to use. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. And Mac is not the right answer in this case. Although it is the right answer, it's not the right answer in this case. That's not the question. That was not one of the available options for this. I use a Mac, but these days, gosh, anything can do video editing. You've got such capabilities. I use Adobe Premiere Pro, which works on a Mac. It works on Windows, works on so many things. If you're watching me right now, you're watching me on a combination of Linux, Windows, and Mac OS anyway for all of these. So you have lots of choices that you could go through and work through all of these. This is one I think would be pretty useful to know for this one. We'll have to fix some of these pieces and have some familiarity. And by the way, on the exam, it's important that you know what all of the different custom configurations are. So this is one where you would want to know this as well. Feel free to go through and break down for video editing, which one of all of these would be great, I think, to have in a computer, right? I could use all of this. That wasn't the question. In fact, you will find that there will be many questions on your exam where technically you could probably answer 2 or 3 answers could technically be right, except this question asks which would be the best choice for a video editing workstation, which means you need to prioritize these for video editing, which really is the best. And that's the one you need to lock in. That's what makes these questions hard, is figuring out those pieces. I don't use Final Cut. I used to use Final Cut on my Mac OS. I don't use Final Cut any longer. Lots of reasons behind that. And I did consider going back to that when they released their new Mac Pro with their compression card, which is kind of nice. Compression cards are amazing. But now I hear that Adobe is going to support that compression card if they don't already. So maybe now I'm back to where I was. I don't know which one to use. That's a different question for a different time. Since we're talking about video editing workstation, let's see how you did with this one. The question asks, which of the following would be the best choice for a video editing workstation? Would that be an SSD, high-end cooling, gigabit NIC, TV tuner, or RAID array? And the answer, 56% of you say SSD, 22% of you say high-end cooling, 12% of you said RAID array, 6% said gigabit NIC, and 3% say TV tuner. So which one is it? Well, let's look at the specifications that CompTIA lists as being important for a video editing workstation. Probably the best thing you should know on this list is that this needs a very good audio output. It needs a very good video card because you're doing all kinds of video work here. There's tons of, you're moving back and forth across this, you're editing, you're cutting, you're moving things around. You're sometimes working with 4K or higher type resolutions. So you need to have something that can handle lots of video, and needs to be very good audio so you can really hear what the end user is going to hear with this. Now, in our question, why didn't you choose a specialized audio or video card? Because that wasn't there. That wasn't one of your available options. So we know it's not going to be that one. Let's go to the next one on our list. It would be good to have good storage, probably more than any other subsystem other than the video when you're doing video editing, is tons of reading and writing to storage. There's so many temporary files that are created. There's such extensive amount of data being swapped back and forth off of that storage drive that you not only need a large drive because video files are really big. When we're done today with this session, my total video size is about 400 gigabytes. So that's one of those situations, is that you really do have to have an understanding of what these might be. So having lots of room is important. And because you're reading and writing to the storage drive so much, having an SSD makes all the difference. Although these days, I think that can be said for pretty much anybody's machine. If you're using a traditional hard drive right now, one of the best upgrades you could ever even consider doing for your system is to replace that with that SSD. It's remarkable. The world will change for you. So this is a good example of that. This one is really key in being able to understand why an SSD would be useful for this. And for video editing, dual monitors is nice to have, where I can edit on one screen. In fact, that's exactly what I do here, is I edit on the screen that's in front of me. And you can't see the screen here to the right very well because my big head's in the way there. But I have a screen right here where I watch the output of what you will ultimately see on the screen. So that is why having that dual monitor view of this becomes really, really useful to have that there. Those are the three characteristics that CompTIA associates with being most important for an audio video editing workstation. And some of you in the chat room are wondering, what do you mean by best? Well, that's what they mean by best. Those are the three things that CompTIA says make all the difference when doing video editing. And they're spot on, by the way. All of those customized setups that are in your CompTIA exam objectives are extremely accurate in the most important things you would worry about. So let's go back to my list that I made, and let's see how accurate your opinion is over mine when it comes to these things. We'll have a big fight over it. So SSD is what 57% of you chose. Okay, there you go. 21% have said high-end cooling, which of course was not on our list for video editing. If you've ever done any video editing, these systems don't get really, really hot. It's sort of like watching a baseball game. You've got a lot of slow things happening, and then suddenly something happens, and then it goes back to being really slow for a long period of time again. It's like American football. There's lots of boringness, which is periods of excitement, and the same situation here. Well, because of that, your CPU isn't constantly pegging through a total amount of 100%. It's not exceeding that amount. You don't have large amounts of CPU utilization. You're not heating up the system with a lot of activity with your CPU. It's not a situation where high-end cooling is really even necessary. So this is one where the high-end cooling would be useful if it was an application that was constantly at high CPU utilizations. But fortunately, in video editing, a lot of the hard work is done on the video card. So that helps a lot. It gets rid of a lot of heat. In fact, when I'm doing video editing, my system fan isn't even on. It does not even turn on. So it's all passive cooling effectively while I'm doing my editing. When I render, that's a little bit different, but generally rendering does not go all the way up to every core being at so hot that you would require high-end cooling. A much more efficient use of your time would be with the SSD. Let's look at the next on our list, which was RAID array. 12% said a RAID array. And although a RAID array, that provides us with, ideally, some redundancy, but that is not necessary for having a high-end editing workstation. It might be useful for storing your archives, which is what I do. My archives are stored on a RAID array, but my editing workstation that I use in front of me does not have a RAID array, and not even necessary to have a RAID array. I'm really more worried about speed during the editing process than I am about redundancy. Once I finish editing and I've got the files that I need edited, those get stored on my RAID array. It's kind of a secondary storage that provides some redundancy, and then ultimately those are backed up. Because remember, RAID is not backup. That's super important. RAID is not backup, to have that there. Next on our list is we got a tie for fourth, Gigabit NIC and TV tuner. Gigabit NIC it's a network interface card of some type is important, but having higher speed network connectivity is not really necessary for a video storage or video editing workstation. There are some video editing systems that do use the network extensively. Those are not incredibly common. Most often, all of your data is local on the machine, because sending that information over the network and trying to edit 4K files across the network would be horribly slow. The best situation probably be a 10 gig network, but why would you do that? Just put everything on the local machine and get the maximum speed that you possibly can. And lastly, a TV tuner. Well, you're not editing video that's from television, so you don't need a tuner of any kind. If you are capturing this and storing it as some type of DVR, a TV tuner would be useful. But in this particular case, TV tuner doesn't help us at all with video editing. The only option here, the one that, given that rationality that I just provided, the best by far possible option here is SSD. All of the other options are nice to haves, not have to haves, and in some cases aren't useful at all. The only one that provides any type of increased efficiency, increased functionality, improves the process of video editing is answer A, SSD. I'm going to go with that. If you'd like to arm wrestle me over it, I guess we can do that in the after show. I think that is the one that is pretty important. Now, if this, for the chat room, this is the type of thing that don't get worried about, because this, you'll never see this happen, because the question from Martin asks, what if there were two answers in here? One of them was high-end video card and the other one was SSD. Which one would you choose? You will never get a question like that. Martin's already deleted it. And he's already realized, wait, they're not going to ask that, because you'd never be able to answer that based on the things they have there. You'd be in that situation. Well, video card could help, but SSD helps too. Those are both really good. So you're never going to find that either in here. So don't worry too much about all of the questions on the exam are very clear what their answers are. You are not going to find a question, very rarely would you ever find a question where you say the answer is not as obvious as I think it should be. Because if you know the answers, it will be very clear what the answer is. There's not going to be ambiguity on the exam. So don't worry about nervousness that you're going to have to choose between two of the best things. You won't be in that situation. They will not expect you to choose that. It'll be a question like this one where the answer should be obvious if you know what the differences are between those and you understand in this particular case what these happen to be. So hopefully that will help you as well. And of course, this is one that kind of hits close to home to have all of this too. A good example of these questions you're going to get in the exam, because a lot of people have questions about this, is these exam questions, what type am I going to see? What are they going to be like? What are the multiple choice questions like? What are the performance-based questions like? And I've gone online and I've looked at some of the free websites out there that offer questions. I've not really been that impressed. I've looked at some of the questions available from some of the paid-for options out there. Again, not as impressed as I hoped I would be. And I realized there was a big gap for people being able to study from materials that can really give them the experience of an actual exam, that can give them the same look and feel for questions, that they would be able to study from materials that would really prepare them for the exam. So I wrote my own set of practice exams. This is a book that has 3 separate practice exams, 90 questions each in each practice exam, 370 pages long, has both performance-based questions and multiple choice-based questions. I have answers on every single one of these questions, detailed answers. We'll show you more about this, and links that are in here. And there's both digital and physical versions of the practice exam available. You can see it's a big book. It is a big book to get, but I can send you one if you want a physical one. I can send you the one here. Let's go through a question. I have one right here. directly from my 220-1001 practice exam book that asks, when a user starts their computer, the screen remains blank and the computer beeps twice. Which of these would be the most likely cause of this issue? Is it that the boot device is not connected, the memory is faulty, the operating system has become corrupted, or the PC is infected with malware? Now, I can, of course, make a note of this if I'm using a PDF reader that allows annotation like mine does. I can circle or put a dot on the screen where I think this is. I could put it in a different file. I could even write it down if I wanted to, or I could step through each one of these one at a time. So let's step through one at a time. We'll get the answer for this one. I can either go right to the answer, which will tell me it's A, it's B, it's C, it's D, but I want more detail because I can click on more details. There are links right in the book if you're using the digital version. So I'm going to click the details, which takes me to the answer page where I get the same question, where when the user starts the computer, the screen remains blank, the computer beeps twice. Is it the boot device not connected, memory is faulty, operating system corrupted, PC infected with malware? And the answer says the memory is faulty. And it explains why that is the right answer, that the memory is faulty. Now, the problem I have when taking practice exams is I never get it right. And I answer a different answer, but then it doesn't explain to me why my answer was wrong. So in every question in this book, I list out every incorrect answer, and I tell you why the answer was incorrect. And I take you through the steps of why I think this answer was wrong, why I think this answer was wrong, and why I think this answer is wrong, so that you can get an understanding of, oh, I didn't get it right, but then I learned why I didn't get it right, which I think teaches you two things. It first teaches you why the correct answer is the correct answer, but it also teaches you about the things you may not have understood about what you chose. And I also think that even if you get the answer right, go read through the wrong answers, and you might even learn something about those technologies as well. This is incredibly important. This was the set of practice exams I wish I had when I took the exam myself. Now, after doing all of that, you think, yeah, but I could use some more help with this. For every question, I detail where this question came from, the objective that was associated with this, the video associated with it, and there's a link right here you can click that will take you to the web page that has the video on it that describes this particular issue. So there it is from my website, Troubleshooting Common Hardware Problems. Takes you right to the page so that you can then answer that one as well. So that is in my practice exam book. I know it's a lot. There's a lot there, but I think it's a valuable way for people to study and something that might help you as well. I wanted to write these questions with the same style that CompTIA uses, but every single question is an original question written by me for this book. So this is one where you're never going to see these questions anywhere else. This is a completely unique, and I think something that can help you prepare for your exam. So when you walk in and you start seeing questions, you'll understand the cadence, you'll understand the tone that they use with their questions. You'll kind of get a feel for this. Find out more about that on my website, professormesser.com/core1pe, to be able to do that. So hopefully that can help you. There's also a combo. If you buy the practice exams with the course notes, you get them both a little bit cheaper. So there's a little bit of a price break on those. And if you get the physical version, I send you download the digital version immediately while you're waiting for me to send this to you and have that there. So that is my practice exams. Hopefully that will help you out too. Let's do some more questions. I have some questions here. This next question asks, an organization has configured cloud-based desktop systems that are accessed using a thin client. Which of the following would describe this configuration? Would it be SAS, SSH, HDMI, VDI, or PAS, P-A-A-S? An organization has configured cloud-based desktop systems that are accessed using a thin client. Which of the following would describe this configuration? Is it SaaS, SSH, HDMI, VDI, or PAAS? If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA, follow that link right there at the bottom, and you can answer on the answer page right there. It'll be all available for you. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll be able to keep this an idea that's something that you will find on the exam that you don't have any hints available. So there's no hints in here either. You will be able to lock in your answer, professormesser.com/QA, and we'll go through all of that in just a moment for those. So if you did buy the course notes, will you have a discount for the practice exams? The discount's available if you buy them both at the same time. Now, if you bought the course notes prior to me releasing the practice exams, and you would like that $5 discount off the practice exams, hit the Contact Us link on the top or bottom of my website, or open up a help desk ticket from your member login, and I can send you a coupon for that $5 off. So you get a little bit off for that. I'll give you absolutely credit for that if you would like to. Now, if you bought the course notes after I introduced the practice exams, then no, the discount's not available. Discount's available to get you to buy both at the same time while you're there. That's the sort of the benefit. I want to give you something for buying both of those at the same time and have it available. Well, I thank you. The chat moderator's on point today. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. There's people think there's hundreds of people behind the scenes working. There is not. There's a lot of buttons in front of me. I'm trying to push them all today. That's the way it works, to have all of that available. Let's see how you did with this one. A lot of people already locked in their answers on this one, which was an organization has configured cloud-based desktop systems that are accessed using a thin client. That's what I would like to be, as a thin client. Which of the following would describe this configuration? Is it SaaS? Is it SSH? Is it HDMI? Is it VDI? Or is it PAAS? We don't know. We're so torn. 33% say that's SaaS. 28% say that's VDI, is what that is. 26% say that's PAAS. 12% say it's HDMI. Only 2% said SSH. I like SSH. Why is it not SSH? This is a technology that a lot of people are using. What if instead of having an operating system on your desk, what if instead of somebody having to come to your desk to configure and set up and troubleshoot the operating system on your machine, that the operating system was actually in the cloud? It wasn't on your desk. If they wanted to connect to your machine and fix it, they would need to connect to the cloud. This is a technology called Virtual Desktop Infrastructure, VDI. So if you don't have an operating system on your desk, then you don't need a lot of storage space. You don't need a lot of video card. You don't need a big video adapter. You don't need a lot of memory. You just need the minimum functionality that would allow you to connect to this device over a remote desktop or remote control view. And in fact, the one I'm showing you here is the one from Amazon, where I have an Amazon VDI set up, and I'm using the Amazon client, and I'm connecting into this. I demonstrate this in my video. I connect into Amazon Cloud, and suddenly my Windows desktop is there. In fact, I just realized I made this video 2 years ago, and I just realized that I didn't delete the hard drive, the virtual hard drive I created for this VDI system. So for 2 years, I've had like a 7 gig Windows desktop in the cloud that's just been sitting there unused. And I think it's cost me like 42 cents a month. I was just looking at my bill. So I've been paying 42 cents a month for storage to store my virtual desktop, which I guess is good. I can kind of pop open my desktop anytime I'd like now. I never use it. It's been sitting there 2 years and I've been paying 42 cents every month. I need to delete that. But this all allows me to connect to this device from my machine, being able to use it. And all I need on my device is just a thin client. But they have other clients. You could access it from your mobile phone. You could access it from your PC, from another PC. You could access it from your tablet because you're not on a workstation. You're just doing a remote control. So amazing to have that. Now imagine it's out this way, not just for one person, but for thousands of people in your organization. And you don't have to put operating systems in everybody's desktop. You just need a simple machine that can connect in and do remote desktop. That's a thin client, and that would be VDI. So if you answer D, VDI, that is the right answer. Now, so I didn't put it in that view into this slide. Sometimes you will hear this referred to, hate doing these things, of desktop as a service. Well, of course they would call it that. They're going to call it anything as a service. Desktop as a service sometimes refers to what this happens to be. It would not be software as a service because I still need something on my local machine here to integrate with all of that. And it's not really software that I'm trying to access. It's an entire desktop, which is kind of more than software to have that there. It would not be platform as a service because I'm not doing programming, application development, which is really what PaaS or platform as a service allows me to do. So that's not it. HDMI is a video standard. That has nothing to do with connecting to a cloud-based desktop system from a thin client. SSH is a protocol that allows me to connect to a terminal screen. That's not what I would use for this. The only one in this group that makes sense of any kind is VDI, my virtual desktop infrastructure, to have this here. Now, if you're watching this video for continuing education unit credit, then what you'll want to do is go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link. In that Contact Us link, put your name, put your email address. In the subject line, if you could put that this is the March 2021 Core 1 study group. And in the body of the message on the line by itself, put the super secret code word of the month of VDI. VDI is our super secret code word of the month. And if you'd like to put anything else in that message as well, you are more than welcome to. I read through all of these. I can't always reply to every single one because you get hundreds of these messages in a month. But I do read through every single one that comes in before I process these. So thank you for your comments, and thanks for sending these in. I'm about a week behind on these, by the way. For those of you wondering, where's all the ones I sent in last week? They're in my inbox. I've been a very bad host, so I will get those to you hopefully today. For those of you sending these in, I'm going to turn them around quick because I have just been very bad at sending them out. So I will get this to you. Top or bottom of the website, click Contact Us link, fill it in. VDI is what needs to be in there. You can almost mess up every other part of that. As long as it has your email address and VDI, I will make sure this gets back to you to have that functionality there. That might help you too. Now, I've been talking a lot in this one. I know we're at the top of the hour, but let's do one more Q&A, shall we? Let's fit another one into this mix. This next one on the list, I think this is a pretty good one to end with as well, asks, a computer abruptly powers down a few minutes after starting a game. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue? Would it be overheating, an outdated BIOS, out of storage space, incorrect refresh rate, or a bad boot sector? After a computer abruptly powers down a few minutes after starting a game, which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue? Would it be overheating, outdated BIOS, out of storage space, incorrect refresh rate, or bad boot sector? If you think you know the answer, please don't answer in the chat room. If you want to go to the link that's on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, lock in your answer. In that message, the super secret code word of the month message for your CEU credit, the subject line, it'd be nice if you put that it was the March 2021 Core 1 study group, just so I can find things easily. That helps me a lot to have this. So, but I'm pretty flexible with these. The important part is you're clicking on the Contact Us link and that the word is in there. And I can almost find it. There's a lot of months of things I have to go through if that's all you give me, by the way. It takes me a long time and I get frustrated. That's why if you put at least where this came from, March 2021, just give me a little something. Throw me a bone. Give me a little crumb. Send me in a direction, and that helps me a lot. So that's why I say put it on a line by itself. Some of you will write a lot of information, and in there hidden somewhere is the super secret code word, and I have to kind of find it. It's like finding Waldo. We're going to find that mess. There it is. Figuring out what that happens to be. So I do eventually find it. I'm very good with this to have that. So hopefully that will help you figure out what to put into that list as well. That might be a good one. There's a lot of reasons that could cause this problem. You are correct, folks that are in the chat room. There's a lot of things that could cause this issue to occur. But I've given you 5 things, and the question asked, which of the following, which of these 5 things, would be the most likely reason for this issue? So there could be, of these answers, more than one thing that could cause this problem. But we only get to choose from these 5, and you have to choose the best one. So that's the difference. That's the secret to have this here. Make sure you do that. The most, the best, all of those things, that becomes important to know. So make sure you are familiar with these. Whenever you start, I think this is a good one. I used gaming as a good example here. I think that's probably one of the best examples here. But there's other things that could cause this as well. I chose gaming. Gaming was a good example anyway. So at least you got a sort of an idea of what the answers might be. Let's see how you did with this one. A computer abruptly powers down a few minutes after starting a game. Which of the following would be the most likely reason for this issue? Would it be overheating, an outdated BIOS, out of storage space, an incorrect refresh rate, or a bad boot sector? 73% of you say it's overheating was the problem. 21% say it's an incorrect refresh rate is your issue. And then almost a 3-way tie for third between out of storage space, an outdated BIOS, and a bad boot sector. Have this here. Well, if you've ever played a game these days and you've started it up, you'll probably hear the fans running. It gets really hot, just constant CPU on these games these days. Really, not even these days. This kind of goes back for years, doesn't it? And you're creating a lot of heat when you're running these games. Heat from the video card, heat from your CPU. And many people will tell you, no, your CPU isn't hit, not as bad as your video card. Your CPU is hit pretty hard on these games, and it creates a lot of heat. And you start playing the game. This could easily be a graphical utility you use at work to be able to do this. This could happen if you were rendering a video, and minutes after starting a video rendering, that could have been the question, it turns off because it overheats. It gets so hot in there that the sensors go so high. There are many different temperature monitors inside of your system, and those temperature monitors will see that the temperature is increasing, and at a certain point, they will say, you know what, if you go much higher than this, you're going to start damaging your computer. You will literally start damaging the components. So instead of that happening, we're hitting the button, turning you down. Your completely powers off, because that's a good way to protect it, is powering off the system completely. And so that is a situation that suddenly you're going along, you're playing, everything's great, and then bloop, goes away. Just that doesn't give you an error, doesn't put a message on your screen. It just turns off. Everything, just like you unplugged it from the wall, turns off, and everything stops. And in fact, you even try to turn it on, it won't turn back on. It is really getting hot inside of that, probably because it's a situation. I should have put a trigger warning up like this. If this is your computer, that's why it's turning off, because of that. You need to vacuum all of that dust out of your system. Sorry about that. For those of you that are watching, I apologize for anything you may have seen here for this. What a mess. But unfortunately, seen way too often to have this situation. That is overheating. 71% of you chose overheating, and that is the right answer. Now, what about these other answers? Because 22% of you said an incorrect refresh rate. This would be referring to the refresh rate of your monitor. And although setting your monitor to different refresh rates may change the information you're viewing on the screen and how you're viewing it and how clear it is and how nice it looks, it won't power your computer down if you set that wrong. So that would not be it. Our computer's working fine, just suddenly turns off to have all of those things there. Would not be an incorrect refresh rate, although setting it to the less than optimal refresh rate could affect how nice it looks. And in fact, for gaming, setting it to a very high refresh rate may actually be a competitive advantage. You should probably check that in your video card, but would not cause the system to power down. 3% said a bad boot sector. Bad boot sectors are certainly a problem when you're booting up. But when you're booting up, you'll get a message that says, can't start the operating system. Operating system not found. Boot sector not available. There will be some message you get in the BIOS that tells you we can't find the boot sector. So having a bad boot sector might keep it from booting, but it would not cause a problem in the middle of your game. So not an issue there. 3% said out of storage space. out of storage space would probably also give you an error message. It might crash your game. It might pop you back out to the Windows desktop, but it's going to tell you out of disk space, or it will at least put you back to the main dashboard or the main front end of your operating system. So you're at the main screen of your desktop, and then you can look at your file manager and start deleting things to be able to work through those. So not something that would power off your computer, however. And lastly, an outdated BIOS. The BIOS is either going to work or it isn't. If a BIOS is outdated, there might be functionality that you're missing in that update. There might be some bug fixes to some very obscure problems you might run into, but very rarely would a BIOS have anything to do with a game powering down once you've started it up. So the thing that you were really looking for is, what is a problem that kind of creeps up on you after having this system really be used heavily? And the answer here is the one that 71% of you chose. Overheating is the right answer. That's the one we were looking for. That describes this particular problem with the system turning off just because it got so hot in being able to use it. Well, all the questions we went through today came directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. You should have these already. They're free. They are extensive. They are your checklist that you should be using during your studies. Go to professormesser.com/objectives, and I will give you a link that goes right to CompTIA, or you can simply go to the Google machine, type in CompTIA exam objectives, and it will take you directly to that page. Make sure you get your hands on these. They are incredibly important at professormesser.com/objectives. They're not just an overview. They are a detailed explanation of what's on the exam. People ask me all the time, what do I really need to know for the exam? Well, you need to know what that's from this list of objectives, everything that's listed in there. And if you know everything listed in the objectives, you're going to pass your exam. That's the formula. If you have this list of objectives and you can check off everything that's in there, you're going to pass your exam. You're going to have a great time on your exam. So absolutely go through there and work through it. By the way, we do one of these study groups, at least one a month for your Core 1, and we do multiples a month for different topics. So I have one in a couple days. On March the 4th is my Core 2 study group. So come back on Thursday. We'll do one for Core 2. And in April, on the 6th and the 8th, is the April A+ study groups for Core 1 and Core 2, respectively. So there's one where on the 6th and 8th. And of course, in April, I have a Network Plus on the 14th, and I have a Security Plus on the 21st. I have others this month as well. You can always find out when the next events are by going to professormesser.com/calendar. Everything is in there. You'll be able to find all of the events that we're having, when they're going to happen. And by the way, before you're planning to show up, sometimes these times and dates change. So what's here might change in the future. My world sometimes tends to be chaotic, so you may find some of those dates get shifted a bit. I always update the calendar. You can always go to professormesser.com/calendar. It will always be up to date. So that's the place you'll go if you're ever wondering when this next one's going to be. Where the part of this where I ask you questions has unfortunately come to an end. We're through our first hour of content, but stick around for the after show where you get to ask me questions. There's already a couple coming in, and I'll be glad to answer them for you. Don't forget about my course notes and practice exams on the website, professormesser.com/1001success. Follow me on Twitter, where I've got free questions every day for A+. Follow me on YouTube, where I'm putting out all kinds of new Security Plus content right now. That's a great one at professormesser.com/YouTube. Hit the bell if you want to be notified when those new videos are updated. And then on Instagram, you get the pretty picture for the question of the day. That would be a good one to go through as well. Well, that brings us to the end of yet another study group. Stick around for the after show. I'll be here. We'd love to have you here as well. Thanks for joining us this time. We'll see you next time on the A+ study group. Now, let's see if I can properly get things in order here. You guys did great with those questions today, by the way. Let me get other things set up here on my screen. Let me get the phone lines up and running, and I will be able to answer those questions that you are sending in the chat room. That's a great place to put the questions. Don't put them right now because I won't see them. And then you can absolutely call in from outside the United States, and I'll explain why in just a moment. The first thing I have to do is host a show on my side. All of this is a cloud-based service. Talk about software as a service. The call-in lines are software as a service. How about that? That's one where you'll, of course, find that happening. So let's have a look at me bringing up my Skype so I can call into my own show. Bear with me a moment. Nobody else is here, so it's just me. I'm the one manning the phones for all of this.
Thank you.
I have to call in and put in all of my secret code words here. The nice lady will say,
enter your 6-digit PIN.
I will do that. I'll put in that 6-digit PIN, and the nice lady says,
welcome, Professor Messer.
thanks, nice lady. That means that you are able to call in as well. And the way that you would call in is in the continental United States, it's a toll-free number at 855-785-RJ45. That is 855-785-7545. If you are outside of the continental United States, for the folks in the chat room that were asking, how could you call in from outside the U.S.? It's a free call on Skype, because Skype will allow you to call anywhere in the world for free, these toll-free numbers. You don't need any Skype minutes, but you have to put a +1 at the beginning. Put a +1, 855-785-7545, and that will connect you to the call-in lines as well. You don't call my Skype. You call this number that's on the screen. Calling my Skype will not get you in. All it will do is not get you connected to anybody, I guess, because I don't use my Skype, except for this. And I use my Skype to make 1 outgoing call every month, or 4 outgoing calls for each of these study groups to have this here. So that's where this comes from. From the chat room, question some folks asked, I just picked up the 601 course notes off my site, and you have a test scheduled in 2 weeks for the 501. How transferable do you think it is over studying for the about to expire test? Well, the test doesn't retire until July 31st, so it's not about to retire. You got the 601 course notes, but you're studying for the 501 exam, so you got the wrong course notes. So open up a ticket from your exam on your member section of my website so I can give you the 501 course notes, not the 601. You're studying completely the wrong information. Only half of the 501 exam objectives appear on the 601 exam. So you're effectively studying a whole lot more information that you will never see on your exam. So please make sure you get, and this is an important consideration, the exam that you're studying for, your study materials should match that perfectly. So if you're studying for the 501 exam, make sure you use a book for the 501, the course notes for the 501, practice exams for the 501. Do not use materials for the 601. It's a completely different, well, I wouldn't say completely different exam, but half of the exam is different. So that's a pretty big difference. Imagine walking into the exam only knowing half of what you needed to know. The best score you're going to get is a 50. And I guarantee that's going to be a fail for the 501, 601. So pretty important that you get exactly the right content. You get to choose which one you want to take. So you've got until July 31st to take the 501. I recommend you take the 501. It is a much easier exam to pass because it's smaller. The amount of content you need to know is much smaller. So it's overall a much better exam. There's many more study materials out for it. It's a much smaller exam to take, therefore much easier to take, less to remember. That's your best bet to earning your Security Plus right now. We're almost out of that window. We still have another month or 2 or 3 until we start getting into a window where people are going to have to start making a decision. But if you start studying right now, here at the beginning of March for the 501, you've got plenty of time to take that exam by the end of July and pass it. So that's the idea. And I'll make sure, if send me that ticket, I'll make sure that you get the right set of exam objectives. Those are going to be important to you. So don't miss that and having those there. Let's go to the phone calls. We'll go to the 864 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Professor Messer, Wesley Baltman. So I actually start a cybersecurity apprenticeship program in a couple of weeks. It'll total take, I think, about 24 months or plus or minus.
Wow.
And the 15th of this month, the first phase is I'll get all the comp certs, and then we move into the I think it's some of the CNA and then the cyber.
Wow.
And then the cyber stuff. And phase 3 is the actual apprenticeship where they pay me. So I watch the videos all the time on my 4-hour drive back and forth from the military base. But I downloaded the course objectives, the exam objectives from the Network Plus 007. And I think you said that the videos, there are a lot of exam objectives here. And I guess the videos alone won't fully prepare you for those. What's the best way to get everything I need in my head and how much time should the course goes from, the Network Plus course goes from March 15th till July. And then you get a voucher to take the exam.
The as far as the videos and what they provide and how they are related to the exam objectives, I create all of my courses to match the exam objectives. So if it is listed in the exam objectives, I do everything possible to make sure that I cover every single one of those topics. So you could, if you were somebody, you already had a familiarity of networking or security or these A+ topics, and you did nothing but watch my videos, and people have done this. They've only used my videos as their guide. They've checked off these topics in the exam objectives. Then they've gone and taken the exam and they passed it. When that happens, they're of course using something that I've created that does cover everything in the exam, but I think it covers it from the perspective of somebody doing a video. I think if you were taking an exam and you read a book, you'll notice the book provides you information in a different way. It provides a different way of looking at it.
Detailed format.
It does. And if I was to take a book, like take one of the Network Plus books off the shelf that you could buy at any publisher, and I was to read it in a video, it would probably be a 150-hour-long course, probably be 300 hours long. It would just be incredibly long because a book is able to cram information into a much more detailed package in a shorter period of time. But that's what a book is for. A video presents information in a different way. It's more visual. I can do demonstrations. I can step you through concepts. I can show animations. There's some great stuff there to work through. And so it's a different...
So at the end of the day, what, in addition to your videos, I've got the course notes for Network Plus. What's going to be the most real? I can do a lot of things with computers, but I'm not. It's the minute details of the bread and butter.
Right.
What's going to give me the most realistic way to go along with your notes and videos to be ready?
I always say it's 4 things that you should study from to optimize or maximize your chances on the exam. And if you go to my website, under each category in my menu, I have a set of recommended study recommendations, or a set of exam study recommendations. For Network Plus, for example, these 4 sections are, well, number 1 on my list is my videos. That's a little self-serving, but I do think whether it's my videos or a video course, I think that's helpful that you have one. The other is to get a good book. We just mentioned that. And there are a number of different Network Plus books out there. Some are better than others. I always recommend that people go to Amazon and either read through the book, because they allow you to read through a chapter, or have that book sent down to your Kindle reader and allow you to read through that. So you can kind of get a feel, is this the book for me, or did a different author write in a way that's a little more appealing to me? But you'll also look at the ratings that are on Amazon, and those will really move you in a direction one way or the other. The other 2, which are, I find, more optional for people, but probably should not be as optional as what people are doing, is to get plenty of hands-on. If you're reading about doing a trace route, you should also be doing the trace route on your computer. If you're reading about running the ping command, you should be running the ping command on your computer. You should be doing these commands. And so I always recommend that people do as much hands-on as possible because, again, it's locking into your brain. It's firing certain synapses that take that topic and stick it in your brain in a way that a book doesn't, and a way that a video doesn't. Instead of being passive, you're now actively doing this thing. And I think it's very valuable that you get as much hands-on as possible. And then lastly is plenty of Q&A. You should test yourself to see, am I really ready to take this exam? That is something you should really do last. And a lot of people skip over that step. I think it's a valuable step for your plans. I don't have a Network Plus Q&A. I will hopefully later this year. But I give some options on my website of some that are pretty good that you might want to consider. And the book that you're using might have some good Q&A in it as well. And those would be good things to go through. Those are the 4 categories. And if I was you, those are the 4 things I'd concentrate on. Don't let any one thing focus. I realize there's some people that are in situations where maybe they can't get their hands on a book. Maybe they're not in a situation to have hands on, and they're just, whatever they can use, they are going to use. And in those cases, people have gone to my videos because they're free. They're on YouTube. That's all they had access to. And they went and took the exam, and thankfully they were able to pass it. It's not your highest percentage, but it's possible. I think there are better ways to go if you have other resources, or you have the capabilities to get your hands on these other resources.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the call. Best of luck. It's one of the challenges you always have when studying for these exams is, do I have the right grouping of things? Have I surrounded myself with all of that? There's a question earlier in the chat room about it was a YouTube question about my notes. Just send me a note at the top or the bottom of my website. Click the Contact Us link and send me a note, and maybe with a link and or a screenshot. I'll be glad to take care of that. Back to the phone lines. Let's go to the 256 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm Jay. I'm from Anderson, Alabama.
Alabama, just up the road from me. Thanks for calling.
Appreciate it, man. I just had 2 questions. I hope it's just 2 questions. One, I'm studying now for the 501 exam for the Security Plus, and I'm kind of going for what I know on my own. I got an objective list here. It's looks like 150 pages long.
That's about right. Yep.
All right, it's a lot to absorb, but for the most part, I think I'm pretty comfortable with it. But from what I'm seeing, there's some things that look a little foreign to me. So what would be your best advice, one, on that, to try to cover bases on everything? I'm guessing within, say, the next 2 months. So if I fail it one time, I'll be able to take it again before it's not available anymore.
Right. There, folks, we talked about this earlier at the end of the study group, and I'm going to bring this up for the folks that have never seen these exam objectives before. They are incredibly valuable. I had someone come to my site after taking the exam, and they said, well, I didn't pass my exam. There were a bunch of questions that came up on my exam that were topics that I was not expecting, and they really threw me. And I asked what those topics were, and they told me what they were, and I said, well, those topics come directly from the exam objectives. And they said, well, yeah, but I didn't grab the objectives because I thought they were just an overview. I didn't think they gave you a lot of detail. But in fact, they do. For those of you that are watching this, here for example, is the SY0501 exam objectives. There are many different domains. There are 6 different domains dealing with threats, technologies and tools, architecture and design, identity and access management, risk management, and cryptography. So 6 domains there. In the first domain, in the first section of what is 6 sections, this whole 2 pages here is the first domain. The first section asks, given a scenario, analyze indicators of compromise and determine the type of malware: viruses, crypto malware, ransomware, worm, Trojan, rootkit, keylogger, adware, spyware, bots, rat, logic bomb, and backdoor. That's a lot, and that's a small section. Section 1.2 is a much bigger section with tons of attacks in it and things that you need to, it's huge. I think it took me as long to get through the first section of this than the entire rest of this exam. There's so much content in it. But look at the detail there. If you're trying to figure out, do I know everything I need to know? This is the list. It's a checklist. Do I know what phishing is and how it gets on a machine and how that looks? What about spear phishing? What's the difference? What about whaling? What about vishing? What about tailgating? What about impersonation? And so on. So for each of these, that's section 1.1 and 1.2 you can go to my videos for section 1.1. I cover everything in section 1.1. In my video for section 1.2 and all those videos, I cover all these topics from section 1.2. So if you're going through your book, this will probably be in a different order because authors put books in whatever order they feel is better for people to learn, which I think is great. But it doesn't put it in order that can help you figure out where this is in the list of objectives. But what many authors will do at the beginning of the chapter is they will say, in this chapter, we cover topics from section 1.3, section 2.2, section 3.7, so that you at least know where you can go in the exam objectives to find that. And so in my videos, you can cross-reference directly with these numbers in the objectives because that will take you exactly to that section of the content. So if you're doing the same thing, you're in a class or you're reading a book and you're learning about a particular topic and you're trying to figure out where did that come from, I need to learn more about that topic, or vice versa. I'm reading the exam objectives and I realize I don't know enough about vishing. Where can I learn about it? Well, it's section 1.2. Therefore, in my videos, it will also be section 1.2. And you could probably, in most books, in the appendix, there is a cross-reference that have all of the exam objectives. And in many books will tell you what page number that objective is covered on. So that you can, the good books anyway, will have that so you can jump back to the actual page in the book that covers that topic. And now you've cross-referenced across both of those. Now you have the book content, you have the video content, and you can tie that back to the exact exam objective.
Okay, well, my second question was, and also you are correct, it's like Avengers Endgame, it's a lot of going backwards to go forwards, to go backwards in the future, and it gets kind of confusing sometimes. But, okay, so would you recommend that it would be better to try to do like the CompTIA version of Network Plus or the CCNA version of Network Plus? Because I've taken both classes before, but I haven't attempted to certify for it.
One of the things you'll notice, because go ahead.
I was going to say, let me ask this like this. I apologize. So I'm really trying to go for what I know based off what are the best set of certifications that I can take. So what would be your advice?
Well, Cisco does have some entry-level certs for some topics. And I know that there are some entry-level certs available on the Cisco side that correlate back to A+. But I haven't seen that Cisco has released a certification type for Network Plus. They don't have one that correlates back topic for topic to Network Plus. I think many people look at Cisco and their first network certification they consider getting there is really trying to look at and work through problems with the Cisco product, the CCNA. That's their first entry level into this. And whenever you get into this and dealing with, Cisco, I think everybody starts at CCNA. Well, the question I usually get about this is the CCNA is where everybody tends to ask the question, do I take the Network Plus or the CCNA? I think a lot of people may even be thinking back to an earlier version of the Cisco exams, which was called the CCENT. And the CCENT no longer available. They dropped that last year. So that's not even an option anymore. And the CCNA, which used to be 2 exams, is now 1 exam. So they did change quite a bit their structure. I today consider the CCNA to be, and even the CCENT for that matter, those are not entry-level exams. Those are like your second-level exams for this. Mm-hmm. Your entry-level exam is Network Plus, and then after that would be a perfect primer to then jump into the CCNA. In fact, I was reading a Reddit thread this past week for somebody who had taken the CCNA, and they said they took the Network Plus first, and they're glad they did, even though a lot of people said, why are you taking Network Plus when you're just going to take the CCNA? But they took Network Plus to kind of get the fundamentals down, to kind of understand the terms, understand some of the foundational information about networking. That's covered in the CCNA, but so is everything else in the CCNA about configuring switches and configuring routers and understanding dynamic routing protocols and configuring NTP and setting up connections with APIs. There's a lot more in the CCNA that you have to know. It's a monster exam. But
Yeah.
but one of the things that they were able to do because they took the Network Plus, they didn't have to go back and learn a lot of the nomenclature, a lot of the terms that they recognized immediately, and they could really just focus on the Cisco piece of it. And that's what I recommend people do as well, is get the foundational piece down with Network Plus, then jump into the CCNA. If you're not going to do that and you're going to go directly to the CCNA, you're going to have to spend a little bit more time on the fundamentals, at least learning those as well. So just already plan that in your mind that it's going to take longer to go through the CCNA if you have not already gotten your Network Plus, because you've got to learn all of that stuff along with it. There's a lot of people that jump right to the CCNA and jump right over the Network Plus. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm also in my mind thinking, what's my easiest path? And by the way, if I go take the Network Plus first, I've now got the Network Plus cert in my pocket, which actually counts for something. As much as the internet will tell you that's sometimes not the case, employers look at these things. So that would be another good thing to consider as well. That's why I don't think there really is a good option for entry-level networking from Cisco. Maybe they'll plan on doing that. What I think they think is that CompTIA's got the market for entry-level. We'll let them do that, and we'll focus on our next layer. Will they change that in the future? I have no idea. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it as well. It's one of those where it's trying to figure out the best way to do this. And of course, whatever the employers want. I think ultimately that's the right answer, is what do the employers, what are they asking for? That is what I'm going to go take, because I need a job. There's obviously a reason. A lot of people take these certs. They're not looking for a job. They're just trying to learn something. So maybe that's not their primary focus. But I think the majority of people studying for these certifications are doing it because they either want a job or want a better job. And so understanding what the employers are looking for is a great way to do that too. Back to the phones. Couple of phone lines opened up and more people called in. And here we are at 770 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Michael. So I am coming from near Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Michael, near Atlanta. Thanks for calling.
Thank you for taking the call. So I got a basic question. I mean, you've probably asked this a million questions, a million times. Basic question: what is, like, as far as certifications? What would be like the best certification all around? I know there's a million jobs that want a million different certifications, but what would be the best certification that would cover pretty much almost anything?
It varies depending on where you are, almost literally in the world, because certifications and how they are viewed tends to be different depending on where you happen to be. In some countries, an entry-level cert into IT is expected that you're going to have an A+. In the United States and Canada, for example, A+ is a well-respected entry-level certification, and a lot of employers would like you to have that if you're going to start work on a help desk, which in the United States tends to be how people start their IT career, is at some type of service desk or help desk. In other parts of the world, it may not be that way. It may be a little more practical, or there may be a path that's a little bit different. For example, if you happen to live near the DC area, a lot of the IT jobs in the DC area require that you have a Security Plus certification as your entry-level cert into IT. In fact, they really don't care much if you have a Network Plus or A+. They might, but probably not as much as the Security Plus. So in that situation, if you're in the DC area, Security Plus probably has a higher priority than others. So I can't poke to any single one and say that's the answer. Some employers don't care about CompTIA. They want you to have a Microsoft certification of some kind, and they will usually list out what that happens to be. Some employers are very focused on other fundamentals. They may want you to have the Cisco CCNA. They may want you to have the Google certifications. It just depends on the employer and what they're looking for. And it also depends on the job. So not only the geography where you're living, but also the job you're going into. If it's a help desk position, a generic help desk, probably A+. If you live in a big area like you do, Atlanta's a big metropolitan area, There are a number of security operations centers in Atlanta where they hire entry-level people. Those, they probably would like you to have more of a security focus. So Security Plus might be a better choice. In my video that I created called How to Get a Job in IT with No Experience, I give you kind of a foundation of how to figure this out. And it really means that you're going to go out to all the job postings that are out there, go to LinkedIn Jobs, go to Dice, go to wherever you like to go to look for jobs in your area, and make a spreadsheet. What type of formal education do they want? What type of certifications do they want? What type of skills are they looking for? Make a list of these things so that you could start comparing yourself to what the employers are looking for. And if you find, after writing down 20 different job postings, and you realize, wow, in 15 of these job postings, they want me to get a A+ certification, well, that kind of spells it out for you. In your particular circumstance, in your particular neck of the woods, A+ is the certification that everybody would like. And in those cases, that's what I encourage people to do. Go get the thing employers want. Now, the problem with this is sort of like the problem I had. I came out of college with a business management degree. It was not a technical degree. Although it could be argued that most colleges and universities don't have technical degrees. But I came out of college without a job without a degree that specifically had anything to do with technology or information services in general. And so when I went out there and tried to find things, employers wanted a lot of different things at the time. A+ didn't exist at that time. I wish I could have had something to fall back on. But had somebody been asking me, do you have the A+ cert, or this job needs the A+, that's what I would go get. So it just depends on what that employer is asking about. I don't know if that gives you any context, Michael, but it certainly might give you some options.
I mean, yeah, it was broad. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was expecting. It's a pretty, I mean, it depends. Like you were saying, it really does depend on the employer, whatever they're needing. In the Atlanta area, there is a lot of security jobs, a lot of help desk. So it kind of does vary in what they're needing. But A+, yeah, that's what I was trying to get in the 900 series. I think I was like 4 questions from passing it.
Well, then
the 900 series A+.
You'll be able to slide right into the 1000
series. Yeah, I need to get
series
back
then.
into the 1000. Well, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
That's your next step then. I think that'll get you where you need to go. So best of luck with that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the call.
I appreciate it. When I got out of school, one of the things I was frustrated with is because I got out of business school, I wanted to be a CEO. Okay, well, where's all the job postings for CEOs? I need to sign up. But I kind of realized very quickly, oh, wait, you have to start at the bottom. I don't know why I was thinking this. You have to start down near the bottom and with the grunt work and work your way up into those other positions. And it's the same way in IT, that you might want to work in security. Well, there's not a lot of entry-level security jobs out there compared to everything else. It's all relative, right? There are some entry-level, and if you're in an area where they have a security operations center, there's probably a number of entry-level security jobs out there, but it's not as many compared to all the other entry-level jobs. Most entry-level jobs in IT are going to be help desk. So you might have to start at A+ and get an understanding of operating systems and servers and even networking before you get into a potential of getting a job in security, which, by the way, is perfectly normal. That is absolutely the way it should work. So I think if you're in that position, don't get so fixated that I went and got a degree in cybersecurity. I went and got a degree in IT security. I went and got security knowledge. I have a degree in security, and now I'm out here and I can't find a security job. Yeah, you're not gonna. You've got the skills. You've got the foundation from a learning perspective. You got the formal degree, but now you have to work up the ranks to get into that security job. Because you can't work in security unless you know operating systems, unless you know networking. So you need to learn those things first. But you will get the security job. Don't worry, the jobs are there. More than ever, the security jobs are there, but you need to have a plan. There needs to be a strategy. You're probably not going to jump right in. Or maybe you jump into one job thinking, well, here's what I'm going to do. We'll stay here a year. We'll stay here 2 years. I guess the big number is 3 years. And maybe within this organization, I can move up to the server team. I can move up to the networking team. I can then bounce up to even from there, bounce up internally to the security team or go to the third-party security team. So there are many ways you can approach this. Find the one that employers would like you to use and follow that path. Sync up with what employers are expecting, and you will find the process much easier for you. Back to the phones, 831 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from? Caller. 831. Am I on hold, caller? I was on hold. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hi, my name is James.
Hello, James. What can we do for you?
Hi, I'm calling from California, and so I just purchased your study bundle for the A+ Core 1 and 2.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate everything that you put out here. It's my first study session today, and it was a great one. My concern is, so these exams are going to be expiring at the end of July. And because I got the 2 study bundles, I may be able to squeeze the Core 1 exam in there. But my question is, what happens if I don't quite get the other one done, the Core 2, by the time the July 31st deadline comes up?
Well, 2 things. These are important considerations and things you have to think about from a strategy perspective when you're planning for your exam. Fortunately, the Core 1 and Core 2 A+ exams would not retire until the latest, or the earliest rather, July of 2022. So not this year, but July of next year. So you can start reading slower. You can now take a little bit of speed off the accelerator. You got a year and a half or so, fortunately, before you even have to start worrying about that piece of it. The thing that does, you'll hear me often say the retirement date of July 31st, is I'm talking to people in the chat room who are studying for their Security Plus, the SY0501 Security Plus. That is an exam that retires on July 31st. So for your A+, nothing you have to worry about today. You've got plenty of time. You can take a deep breath and not have to concern yourself with that. But let's say, for those of you that maybe you're taking your Security Plus, or for maybe you're like me and it just takes you forever to get an exam done, or maybe something happens in your life and you have to kind of leave your studies and then come back to it later. Let's say we'll fast forward into the future. Let's say it's March of 2022. And let's take your question again, which is, now you've got to get past the A+ Core 1 and Core 2. You have to pass both of them before the exam series is retired. Let's say they're going to retire it in July of 2022, and it's March of 2022. So you've got basically all of March, April, May, June, July. You got about 5 months to go through that. That is not a lot of time, but that's still possible, though. On an average of 2 to 3 months for each exam, which is what most people tend to do, you could get both of them done if you were to really focus your efforts and go through all of them, and you'd be able to get them done before the retirement date. Now, let's say that you didn't. Let's say that you got through one of them and you just could not make it through the second one before the exam series retired. And now we're into the next series. The Core 1 and 2 is now updated to the next series. Now you have to start over. Now it gets rid of everything you've done. And now you're back to ground zero. And now you have to take both exams again. That's what happens. And that's why I often say, look very closely at the dates, put it in your calendar, plan out how long a person like you would take the exam. Some people it takes a month. Some people it takes 6 months. So figure out the one that's right for you, and you'll be able to have that work. And I think that's an important consideration. You will know well before the retirement date what the date will be. Usually it's about 6 months before you will know. And when that happens, you will often find that the part that I think is a challenge is when you pass the exam, you're good for 3 years. You are certified for 3 years, regardless of what they do with the exam series. So don't worry so much about, I'm going to pass it on July 30th and the exam retires on July 31st. Well, that doesn't matter. It's not like you're going to have the certification for a day. Your certification is good for 3 years. In fact, they could change the exam series every day if they wanted to. As long as you get your cert, As long as you passed, you're good for 3 years. In fact, you'll never take the exam again. You'll just renew it. You'll renew your certification. So once you pass the exam, that part of your life is behind you. You never have to think of the exam again. You never have to take the exam again. All you have to do now is keep your certification up to date, and you never have to worry about that piece. Just make sure you get both exams done before the retirement date for the series, and you're going to be just fine.
That is great news. That is really great news. I think that's more than enough time. I was starting to panic there for a little bit. I lost my job due to COVID, and I decided to get into I did a little bit of IT with what I did before, but I don't have as much experience as a lot of these other guys. So I'm new to this, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I only have so many months to get it done before it retires. But this is great news.
Good for you. And I like the direction you're going. Stick with that. And don't worry so much about experience in those things. I do have a video on my YouTube channel, and I'll have Lori, who's watching this replay, I'll have her put the link in the video description of how to get a job in IT with no experience. There are some things you could do to set up your own home lab that might give you some advantages during the process of being in an interview that might have an interviewer look at you and go, well, you haven't worked somewhere professionally, but you have some skills that some of the people we've talked to haven't. You may be able to move yourself up in the list a little bit. So have a look at that as well. That might help you. And you're right, you got plenty of time. Go get that A+ and get that path going. I think you're going to be very happy with it, James.
Thank you so much, Professor Messer. I really appreciate your time.
Best of luck. That's one I think a lot of people are doing. I get a lot of emails from folks that talk about this is what happened. The world changed, and it made me realize I need a job where I can have a better income. I can have upward mobility. In fact, IT has upward mobility upon upward mobility. How much money do you want to make? Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? That's IT. Probably more than any other vertical market, I think. There's very few vertical markets where you can do that, where you can be self-taught to move into these upper level positions that pay a lot of money, pay really six figures and plus multiple six figures in some cases, that allow you to see the world and learn things. It's a win-win. You can't beat that. So that's one of those situations. Back to the phone calls. 207 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from? Caller. Am I on? Oh, I did not push the button. I'm thinking, where's the caller? Well, the caller's right here, 301. Now you heard the beep. Hi, caller.
Hello. My name is Matt. I'm from the D.C. area.
Hey, Matt.
And, hey, thank you, Professor Messer, for doing this. It's been really helpful. I've been studying for the A+ certification, and it seems like, it's been helpful to hear about all the career paths and your personal story about, like doing a college degree that were in IT. So I also like did international affairs because it's kind of like DC related,
right,
to like the government.
Makes sense.
Here. But now it's like, oh my God, cybersecurity is like so popular here. I never knew that because I wasn't in that field, So now that I'm aware of that, but then also AWS training is also becoming more readily available in the area. So I'm trying to take advantage of all these different things. So there's like the IT support career path, which the A+ kind of cover, and then there's the cybersecurity certification, which is, for the government contractor. So, and then there's the AWS because, Amazon is coming to Virginia, and there's just a whole lot of cloud computing now. So I'm kind of torn between those three things, and I'm thinking about doing all three within maybe a 1 year period, but I might be like overqualified for myself before I even get into an IT job,
But this is sort of the best situation you could possibly be in as far as someone trying to get a job in something is, well, I've got a choice of these four things that I could go in a direction and do in my career. The one thing I find is that that's remarkable to at least have that that even option. Not a lot of people have this option in their particular market segment. And you're right that perhaps the formal degree you have doesn't necessarily have a direct correlation to IT. But in your particular example, and this is a great one, for someone who has more of that perspective in political science, international affairs, whatever it happens to be, in the DC area, can only help you in a job in IT, because now you can better take this idea of setting up Active Directory, connecting to the cloud, getting these applications running. You now have a better way to link back why you're doing it. Well, here's why you do it. Here's why it's important. And this is why this application needs to get up and running. And this is why they're pushing to do this so quickly, because we have this particular set of laws that they're planning, or this particular set of laws was passed, and now we need to roll out this particular thing. That's a great position to be in. I see this all the time from people that may be leaving a degree in medicine and they want to move to IT. And I tell them, well, go talk to the IT people in your hospital, because they need good technologists who also know healthcare. That's really hard to combine these things together. So that's already, you're in a pretty good place when it comes to that type of thing. Make sure you consider that as well when you're going into this. When you start looking around in your area, though, and you mentioned all these different things, you mentioned first getting a job, and I think A+ is good for that. But especially in the DC area, tons of cloud computing right now, lots of Microsoft Azure, lots of Amazon AWS, just tons. And just saying those two things, it makes it sound like it's just one thing. Well, each one of those is hundreds of different types of cloud services they offer. So each one of those has an entire career's worth of things you could learn inside of it. And no doubt, cloud computing, incredibly hot right now, very popular set of skills to have, can be used anywhere in the world, not just in the DC area. It's extremely valuable. In fact, my son right now is going to a school to get a cloud computing degree. And I encouraged him to do that. Like, yes, you should have. Oh, you'd like to do that? You should absolutely do that. Very valuable. My background was in help desk. It was in networking. And when I left working for someone else, it was IT security. So all of those are very popular right now. The security side, perhaps more than the others. Security is very, very popular right now. So those are two sides where anyone can be successful easily, is on the cloud side and on the security side. But quite honestly, all segments of IT are hitting right now. If you wanted to be a database expert, if you wanted to go into network administration, if you wanted to be a pro in setting up server configurations, if you want to be a Linux person, all that's hot right now. You can't go wrong right now with all of those pieces. Of course, I always recommend you look at the jobs in your area to see what people are asking for as an entry-level job for the things that you are familiar with. Those will direct where you go, at least initially. But once you get in at the help desk, that's where you now need to start thinking, all right, where do I make my move next? What do I want to do next? And help desk, I think, is a great place to be to figure that out, because you get to interact with the workstation team, with the server team, with the networking team, with the database team, with the security team, with cloud team. And you get to talk to all of them, and you kind of get a feel for what their job is like. You get an idea what technologies they work with. And then you can decide, well, that networking team, I kind of like what they're doing. Let me go talk to them and see what they're doing next. When are they going to add another seat? When would they like to have someone hire into their organization? And what are they looking for? So I know what to start studying for and be ready when that position comes open. Mm-hmm. That's good stuff right there. I had somebody a couple of weeks ago say, well, I studied cybersecurity, and all I can find, I've only been offered this help desk job. I don't think I should take the help desk job because I want the cybersecurity job. And I couldn't reach through the internet and grab their lapel and say, no, take the job. Go get the help desk job. Get your foot in the door. Because from there, you can bounce anywhere. The hardest part's getting that first job in IT. Once you get the job in IT, the doors are open. You now have experience. And that's what we're all hoping for. You have the experience, and there will be people that want to help you, but you have to get in the door. So I heavily encourage this person, go get that job in IT. Where's your mother? Why is she not forcing you to get this IT job in the help desk? Go get that help desk job so you can start repaying her for all this college degree that you went and got. Go get the job and then go anywhere you want. That's how it works. That's how it worked with me. That's how it works with basically everyone. You have to start at the bottom, get the grunt job, be willing to work the long hours, be willing to do the stuff nobody else wants to do, and suddenly people will notice you and realize the skills that you have. That's the best path I think that anybody should take.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the call, Matt.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Best of luck. That I think is where we should be thinking, is get in the door. How could you not, if somebody offered you a job, you're wondering, yeah, but it's not a job doing cybersecurity. We have no experience. Nobody's going to hire you for cybersecurity. Go get the job. And trust me, the cybersecurity is going to be there. When you move up, you get the knowledge, you understand what's happening, you kind of get a feel for the lay of the land. The security is still going to be there. So find a way to get there, but you have to get in the door first to make that happen. Back to the phone calls. Let's talk to Florida, 813 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Alan calling from Tampa, Florida.
Hey, Alan.
I took 3 crash courses in A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus.
Wow.
Like drinking from a fire hose.
I guess so.
After listening to you and some others, I guess I should go for the Security Plus cert first, as that's probably going to be the first one to close out.
Oh, good point. So if you're looking purely at retirement dates, that will be the first one. If the SY0501 will retire at that time. Now, the courses you took, were these like over a week or 2 weeks or months, or what was the type of structure that you had for these courses?
They were, A+ was a little over a month. The others were a month each.
Okay.
3 times a week, 4 hours a day. So it was pretty intense. So I have a lot of book work to do, but I guess my first big question, if I'm going to go for Security Plus, I'm 66 and my memory isn't as good as it was when I was 20. And boy, you talk about an acronym soup. That's all there is.
That's a good point.
Any advice?
Well, the good part, as far as it is related to these certification exams anyway, is that they avoid, or there's not a lot of what I call trivia questions on the exam. For example, you will not get a question that asks, what does AES stand for? And then you have to somehow remember what AES and the words are. They're never going to ask you this. In fact, very often you will not get questions. You'll rarely get a question that expects you to understand the differences between an acronym and what the words are for the acronym. I see a lot of people doing flashcards from the acronym list in the back of the exam objectives. And the reality is that CompTIA doesn't necessarily care that you even know what the names are, what the words are as they relate to those letters. What they're more interested in you knowing is when is AES used? In what situations would you ever see AES? What is important about AES when you would use this? You know, it's the context of how it's applied that's important, not what the letters stand for. So in some cases, some of what people do for rote memorization, they really shouldn't be doing. The idea that you would have to know what the words are is something that probably will come naturally as you learn the material, if it's something you need to know. There's a number of acronyms I still run into in security, and I have to stop and think to myself, wait, what does that stand for? I don't even remember anymore because we just call it by its acronym. We just call it by the letters. And I know what it is, and I've configured it a million times, and I plugged it in. In fact, I bought equipment that had that particular feature with those acronyms, but I had to stop for a moment and think, wait, what do those words stand for? We don't even remember anymore. And CompTIA doesn't care so much that you know what they stand for either. They just want you to know how they use it, how it's applied into that world. So I think that will help with some of your studies. And in fact, it's one where I work with a lot of people in the industry who've been doing this a long time, And it's all about how you applied the technology, which I think is easier to remember than trying to remember an acronym or two. I think if you focus on that effort, and that's sort of how my 501 practice exams are written, is with that concept in mind that here's a problem. Here's Bob. He's a user. He's connected to a VPN. Here's the problem he's having. Which one of these things do you think is causing this problem? And they might list it all out as acronyms, or they might even list it out as the actual name, which is sort of a gimme in some cases. And then you have to know what those things are. You don't have to know what the acronym means. You just have to know where it's applied and how that might be causing us problem. I don't know. That might help you a little bit, Alan.
Yeah, that was great. So you have study questions for Security Plus?
I do. I have practice exams for the SY0501, and I have two practice exam books for the 220-1001 and 220-1002. I have the 1002 in front of me, but the 1001 looks very similar. I don't have practice exams for the 601 yet. There were some folks in the chat room asking about that. Once the videos are complete, I'm going to write that one as well. So they'll be out in a month or so, 2 months or so, 3 months or so, whenever I get those done. But my plan is to have practice exams for the 601 as well. But if you're studying for the 501, which is what I recommend everyone study for right now, I do have practice exams for that available as well.
Okay, and so you would say do the Security Plus and then go back and pick up the A Plus and the Network Plus.
I think if your strategy is to get all three of those before applying for a job, or the employers in your area would like you to have all three of those, I think that's a pretty good strategy.
Okay. Thanks, Professor. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
You've
Alan.
been great.
Best of luck. It comes in handy, too, if you're someone who is trying to get through all of this content and you see a lot of things. I see this on the Core 1, which was the study group we did today. Some of this stuff is rote memorization. There's a little bit of it. You can't get away from it completely. So, for example, in the first section of the exam objectives, the networking section, you have to know all these port numbers. There's a lot of port numbers. And then you have to, on the 1002, there's a lot of command lines. You have to know all the command lines. Some of that is memorization, but what I find is if you can apply it, if you set up a firewall, if you set up firewall rules in your personal firewall that's on your workstation, and you start doing it for certain applications, like set up a firewall rule that says from your computer, you can't use IMAP, and then you launch an IMAP client on your computer and it doesn't work. Well, now that port number is sort of connected in your brain to IMAP. So being able to do some hands-on can really help with that. I think that would be useful too. Let's go back to the phone lines and go to the 207 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hello. I'm Albert. I'm from New Hampshire.
Hey, Albert. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
So I just had one question.
Sure, go ahead.
So what are your thoughts on the socio-political?
Whenever I get into questions also for the chat room, some folks were asking, how can I ask questions in the chat room, but do I have to call in? You can absolutely put the questions in the chat room. I do watch them going by, and occasionally I'll hit them between calls. So feel free to put them in as well. That might help too. Back to the phone calls, 317 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hey, Professor. It's Christian Taylor. I'm calling from Indianapolis.
Hey, Christian.
I'm wondering, where do I start with A+?
This is probably the number one question, probably something I should cover better on my website too. I do have a video at the very beginning of my course that says how to earn your A+ certification. And I think that's where a lot of people want to go with this. And the reality, though, is that there's not a single answer to that question. I do put on my website, and we mentioned this earlier in the study group, about the resources that are available. So if you're going after your Core 1 or Core 2, I have study recommendations on my website that will take you through what I think are good. Well, that's not the shot. There we go. The study recommendations. So it might be a set of videos. It might be the books. It might be some hands-on labs. It might be Q&A. All of those are on my site to peruse. I think the video I also have is a good primer into A+, because a lot of people who are starting in technology don't even know what the A+ really is. What is it covered? Who's providing this certification? What should I expect for a job once I get this certification? How does this really help me? All of that's in my first video of how to earn your A+ certification. And that's, I think, the best place for people to start if they're trying to get an overview of this. There's a few other books on the web, on internet, or other videos on the internet as well that might help you along those lines. But I think that's a good place to go to kind of get the ground game, get the ground rules in place. And then from there, you can decide, is this right for me? Is that not right for me? Do I need a book? Should I start watching these videos? And from there, there's people to talk to online. There's people to talk to on the CompTIA Discord. That's the one from Reddit. There's a great Reddit subreddit for CompTIA. All those are great information gathering sources, and you should absolutely go take advantage of every single one of those.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. I've also got into a Security Plus or cybersecurity school, and I've been going through your cybersecurity videos, and it's helping me out a lot, but I have no IT experience, so I'm trying to figure out what certifications I need to get, and watching this live stream, I've really gotten a lot of good answers where to start, maybe looking for jobs. Because I'm really tired of this construction job I've been working. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm only 22, and I'm not going to do this the rest of my life. So my dad's an IT engineer, so I'm definitely getting the IT field.
Good for you. I literally started in the fields, hoeing blueberry fields when I was in high school, and that's when I realized I do not want to do this the rest of my life either. There's nothing more motivating than hard work. That's people who are really doing work. I work in IT. That's not really work. People doing that are really doing work, and you're right. I think there may be a smarter way to go about doing this.
So thank you, Professor, for your time, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Christian. Best of luck. That's one of those. I wish I almost had that experience for my children, is sending them out to the fields, literally hopping in the back of a pickup truck in the morning, being driven out into the fields. That's where you work the rest of the day. That is some hard work, and you realize really quick that maybe I'll go get that degree. Maybe I'll go get a job working with technology where I don't have to hold a hoe all the time. I can do that at home. Hello, 773. Oh, it's Joe. Joe, thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Hi, Professor Message. How are you today?
Doing so good. Thanks for calling.
You kind of answered the question, and I'm trying to get an IT myself, kind of older guy, and I talked to you a couple of months ago. I said I want to be a consultant. The key thing is sometimes I get job offers, but I kind of don't want to take it because I don't have the experience, and I haven't took the 101 CompTIA. I did buy your notes and everything. But my question is, I was trying to go into YouTube and do the desktop. Some of the YouTube videos, they try to teach you how to do tickets. Is that a good way to learn that?
Well, it's sort of one of those situations where if you work in an help desk of any kind, whether it's a sit on the phone all day and talk to people, or it's in a building where you're getting up and going to people's desks, or working in a more casual corporate environment, almost everybody has to deal with some type of ticketing system. There has to be some way to keep this mass of questions and requests coming in, and find some way to be able to determine which requests are more important, and be able to triage everything and get the most urgent things taken care of quickly, and be able to track how you're able to resolve those problems. And so I think there's a sort of a combination of things you need to be able to know. That's just some of the skills that are useful for working on a help desk. What I found, though, is most help desks will teach you the ticketing part when you get there. The more important part for you is going to be, do I have the skills to be able to pass a certification exam like the A+ Core 1 and Core 2? That's probably going to be on the minds of the people hiring. I haven't seen a lot of help desk positions where they have already expected you to know the ticketing system they work with. They more often ask, do you have this particular formal degree, or do you have this particular certification? Now, along the lines, you had mentioned you're seeing a lot of these job postings where they're asking for these things. But one of the recommendations I give in my video of how to get a job in IT with no experience is not to make the decision for yourself that you're not qualified for this job, because you have no idea what type of resumes they happen to be getting. They may be getting a set of resumes where nobody has any practical experience, but they still need to fill the job. So you should not be the one that throws out your resume before you even submit it. If you think you are qualified for the job, you should submit your resume. Whether the employer thinks you're qualified or not is a completely different question, and you shouldn't be making that decision for them, because they may see your resume and see something about it or know something about what they're looking for and decide that you might go to the top of the pile, or at least be in the top 3 or 4. That's a good place to be. The other thing I mentioned in my video, and this might help you as well, is if you happen to know someone who already works there, have them submit your resume. A resume coming from somebody internally often has a higher priority or is looked upon more favorably than just something cold coming off the street. That's not always something you can do, but in the back of your mind, you should start asking around for the groups you belong to, the church you're in, the organizations that you participate in. Find the people and ask them, hey, I'm looking for a job in IT. I know you work in the company down the road. You may not even work in the IT department. Do you know a person there that I can talk to? Or can I give you my resume if you guys are doing, if you guys are getting some type of promotion or bonus for submitting employees, you might be able to make some money with that one. So there's places where giving somebody your resume might actually make them money if you get hired. That's pretty motivating from their perspective and might help you get a little bit of a leg up during the interview process.
Okay. All right. Sounds really good. I enjoy it. I'm definitely going to continue to purchase I'm still studying 101, A+. I want to definitely do 102 because I want to get my cert.
Good for you, Joe.
Thanks a lot.
I appreciate the support. Best of luck.
You too.
I think that's one where I often do this is I'm reading through the job description thinking, I don't think they're looking for me. I think I'm qualified, but I don't think they're looking for me. They were asking for these other things. Don't let that be the decision. You're the one who should be sending your resume, and they can decide based on that if they want to talk to you or not. And they might not want to talk to you, which is okay. You should start getting used to rejection. That's the calling card of any job hunt is they're going to tell you no. I've been told no many times on job hunts. I put in my resume in, got nothing. I've been to interviews and talked to people. Didn't happen. Been to the second interview, flew me in. Didn't happen. That's the way it works. That's the way the game is played. So just be ready for it. And be ready for the next one and have applications in the world. And don't do this one at a time. Don't wait for somebody to call you back. Go, okay, I don't have to start sending my resume out because someone called me back. No, keep sending it. Put as many of those in the fire as you can. It's going to be important going forward. Back to the phone calls. 281. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, didn't hit it. Didn't hit the button. Now it hit. There's ding. There's the ding. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Houston, Texas.
Hello, Houston.
Edo,
what's your question?
Yeah. I just want to know if you have any coupons for the your study materials.
Coupons are there's a couple of things that people often ask me about. And if you go to my website and you check out, you'll see there's a slot there for a coupon code. On my site, the coupon code is there for organizations like schools and universities that have pre-purchased vouchers for their students. So they've already paid for it, and it's a way that they can put in the coupon to be able to get the book without having them pay for it. They don't have to pay for it because their school's already bought it. On my site, and I've seen this other places on the internet, I understand why they do it. I just don't like the style, I guess, which is on the internet, there's some sites you go to buy study materials. And if it's the first time you've been there, you get a certain price. And if you've bought something from there before, you're offered a different price. And if it's a certain time of the week or there's a certain promotion on, it's a third price. And you kind of have to play this game of going into an incognito mode and connecting to a site so you get a different price. What is that? That's ridiculous. So on my site, I prefer just giving everybody the same price. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do incognito mode. There's not a particular week of the month where it's a different price. Everybody gets the same low price. You don't have to play games to be able to get that. So that is what those coupon codes are on my site, is for the vouchers that you might get. Now, there's also vouchers for the CompTIA exams. I don't sell those on my site, so at least not at the moment. I think I'd like to be able to do that, and I've sent some notes into CompTIA to see what would be required to do that. But I don't currently do that, so I don't have vouchers on my site for that either. So if you're buying from my site, you don't need a coupon. You don't need a voucher. You don't have to play a game. You don't have to go into incognito mode. Everybody gets the same low price, and you can feel good that you weren't cheated out of a particular lower price.
Okay, so which one do I get for CompTIA A+?
Well, of course, there are 2 A+ certification exams. So those of you that were here for the first hour, we talked about Core 1. But of course, for the A+ exam, you have to pass 2 exams. You have to pass the Core 1 exam and the Core 2 exam. So a lot of you that are studying will be studying one. I recommend studying one of those at a time. And most people start with the Core 1. So on my site, you can go to the webpage that has the Core 1 training on it. And there's links there for the videos, the course notes, the practice exams, and the other pieces that are there as well. That's a great place to start. Just start with Core 1 A+, work your way down the list, and you cannot go wrong.
So much.
I appreciate the call. Thanks so much for calling. That's one I think I need to do a better job on my site. And I've got plans to create sort of this entry-level page that would kind of walk you through those pieces, because people are all the time showing up, want to get their A+ exam, and I've got that entry-level A+ video. That just needs to be a little more prominent for those to be able to work through it. Let's, how are we on time? I'm looking at my schedule too. The phone lines are chockers today, so we're going to get through as many of these as we can to the 240 area code. Hey, caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Kenny, and I'm calling from Maryland.
Hey, Kenny. Thanks for calling.
I have a question for you. Are there any sites that you will recommend or vouch for lab-based performance questions?
There's really only one that I vouch for, which are the practice labs. And full disclosure, wait, I'm now caught on my own wiring. Hold on. Let me unplug. The practice labs are the ones that are on my site. And full disclosure is that I am I do have a commission system for the practice labs. So I'm an affiliate of theirs, but I am an affiliate of theirs because I like their stuff so much. I've known these guys for years and worked with them forever, it seems. And they have really, really good labs. It's on the resource pages on my site for practice labs. And they are set up so that you can, for example, for the A+ exam, it's hardware, this is Core 1. Hardware network troubleshooting, mobile devices, networking, virtualization, and cloud computing. They've got lots of topics available, modules that have labs in them to be able to work through. And these are great because you can run them all in a browser, and they're all virtualized. And you can restart them at any time, which means you can access them from anywhere, and you don't need a lot of resources on your local machine. This is where this really does come in handy. And this is really the only labs I personally worked with that I like. And so that's why they're on my site. It's not just because I'm an affiliate. It worked the other way. I liked them so much that I bugged them to get an affiliate program going, and they finally did and called me and said, okay, we got it. We can put them on your site now. So not only are you purchasing and getting access to great labs at Practice Labs, but you're also helping the site by buying it from my website. So that's It's sort of a win-win, I hope, for most of you. There are other labs out there. I've not really worked with other labs that are there. There's very few third-party products that I've even seen, just because I don't really spend a lot of time going out and looking for those. But I really like the practice lab stuff, and I know the people, and I like how they support their products. So they check all the check boxes for me. So that's one of the reasons I like to support them from my site as well. And if it might be something you're able to do on their site, they have some free labs you can take, so you can kind of get a feel for it. So before you purchase, go look at some of the free ones they have. You'll kind of get a feel for what they offer, and you'll understand a little better of what their system is like.
I do appreciate that. I do have one other question.
Sure.
I've actually purchased your notes, and they're great notes, by the way. They're very detailed. I just want to know, do you recommend a person that's studying for the test to also go through the textbook to find any more information that might not be included in your notes?
Well, certainly, I think having sort of the combination of, and we mentioned this on an earlier call, you've got the combination of notes, videos, a book, some hands-on, and Q&A. I mean, that is the ultimate if someone was trying to figure out what they should get for their course. Videos, books, hands-on, and Q&A is the four corners of that whole thing. My course notes, as the name implies, are notes from my course. They're not intended to be a textbook. In fact, the Core 1 notes and the Core 2 notes, how many pages is the Core 1 notes? I mean, they are extensive. They tell you everything that was in the videos, but the Core 1 notes is, not even 60 pages. So that's not, if you've seen the textbooks for A+, those are hundreds of pages in length. So this is sort of the summary. Once you've read the book, once you've watched the videos, the notes are a perfect summary of that. But I think if you're someone who's just starting out, don't just rely on notes. Don't just rely on videos. In fact, don't just rely on a single book. Combine these together, and I think that's going to give you the best possible chance.
I do appreciate it, Professor Messer. I do watch your videos, and I also use your notes, and I have a textbook of my own from Cybex. And I just want to say, man, your videos and books, and your notes are very informative, and I do appreciate, you taking your time out and helping us get prepared for this test.
Kenny, I appreciate your support. You've got all the right materials there. You're going to do great on the exam. Best of luck.
Thank you.
I think it's really important that people who come to my site and only look at one resource, there's just no shortcuts. This exam is not an easy exam. None of these exams are. And there's no easy way to cheese this one. You can't somehow find a shortcut that's going to do that. Wait, there's notes. I'll just read the notes. Well, that might have worked for the Count of Monte Cristo, but it doesn't work for A+. These you're going to have to add some context to. These are designed to keep you from missing anything that you might have seen in the videos, but it doesn't replace a book. It doesn't replace hands-on. You still need those skills. So that's an important one too. Let's back to the phones on the 678 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from?
Hey, Professor Messer. My name is Joanne. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Joanne.
Hey, yeah, so I had a few questions. First, I want to thank you so much for your just the time that you put in to prepare, people for their exams. Your videos, your notes is very informative, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much.
So the first question I had, I wanted to know how can I be able to move forward when it comes to studying for the CompTIA 1 and 2 and networking. I do have a few books, and I'm getting overwhelmed, and I'm just like, I just want to focus on one thing instead of going here, dipping in here, dipping in that, going to Udemy. I'm not sure if you know about Udemy, and just going all over the place where I can just focus on just one source. Like, okay, hey, if I study your notes, if I, continue to watch your videos, will I be able to pass the exam without having to jump all over the place?
Well, I think jumping all over the place and kind of consolidating these things together is kind of a key to these exams. It's the same whether you take the A plus or the Network plus or the Security plus or the CCNA or the ISC squared series of exams or the Microsoft exams, the Amazon exams. It's all the same. You have all of these resources that somehow need to come together to blend everything. What I find is sort of the same problem you have is that the information is just scattered to the winds. And if you're trying to narrow down one particular thing, it's very, very difficult to figure out where to find all of these and put them all together. So what I normally will recommend in that scenario, and I think it's a good foundation, is to use the exam objectives for this. The exam objectives list out everything you need to know. It lists them out bullet by bullet by bullet. It's a perfect checklist for the exam. It doesn't necessarily tell you where to go to find all of this, but if you know, you go to the exam objectives, and in the objectives, there is an objective that says explain penetration testing concepts, active reconnaissance. Okay, well, we'll draw a line right there for active reconnaissance, or we'll type it in our notes, active reconnaissance. Now we need to find every place to go that talks about active reconnaissance. So we'll go to the videos and learn about active reconnaissance. We'll find that section in the book. We probably just go to the index. If it's a good book, it has a good index. It'll take you right to the page for active recon. You'll want to find maybe even in that video, they talk about running Nmap or running some other tool. Well, maybe I should run that tool. Let's run Nmap and see how that works. Oh, that's interesting. I'll run Nmap on my own machine. We'll see what comes back. Oh, look at the information I was able to find. Once you do all of those things and kind of bring everything together, you can check that one off the list and then go to the next thing on the list, which is passive reconnaissance, and then just step through them one by one by one to find what you need to know. I wish there was one resource where you could go to one place and that would be everything you need to know about every topic in every format, but that particular material, that particular thing, that pie in the sky just doesn't exist, unfortunately. So I think having a foundation that you can jump off from, like the exam objectives, is an important one. And that may be, if you get a good PDF editor, good PDF annotation, that might be a great way to start even making notes on that exam objective PDF itself and start using that as your jumping off point. That might help, Joanne.
Okay, and I do have one more question.
Sure.
If that's okay with you. Okay, so my last question is that because I know everybody before me who was calling in, they were saying, hey, this is what I'm using, this is what I'm doing. So can you direct me to a book that I can use instead of, looking at these books and overwhelming myself? Because, when I'm overwhelmed, my mind is just all over the place. So it's for me to focus on, okay, I'm going to watch your videos. I'm going to continue to use your study notes, and I'm going to read this book just in case if your study notes doesn't cover something, which your study notes does. It does cover everything to my knowledge, but just in case if I'm like, okay, I didn't really understand this, let me look at this book and see so I can have a better understanding of what they mean by X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and I sometimes will tell people to get more than one book, but the reality is if you're doing it that way, you only need one of them. If you go to my website, under the Core 1 A+ training, at the very bottom of each menu is the A+ study recommendations, and that's for the people watching. That's what I have up on the screen. And I have 4 books. I just choose books that I have seen and used and heard people talk about before, and I've put them on this list. It's not meant to be a comprehensive list. It's not meant to be the best or the worst. Every book has its advantages and disadvantages. Some books speak to people differently than others. Some people like different books that other people do not. And so I think it's best if you go to these books to also go to Amazon, read through a chapter, because they put a chapter on there for free. Read that chapter. And then after reading it, think, was that a good chapter? Did I like the way the author wrote? Did I like their voice when they wrote this book? Is it something that works for me? Do I like the way they explain the concept? And if it's something that works for you, you can put that in the list of, that's the one we're going to use. Let's focus on that one book. Practically all the books on Amazon that are highly rated are perfectly fine to go through the exam. When I took my A+, I think I used the Mike Myers book and I used the Dummies book. I read the Dummies book second. I used 2 books, and I liked the Dummies book better. When I was done with it, I thought, well, they did a better job of explaining it to me. But if you ask somebody else, they'll say, I'd looked at both of those. I liked the Mike Myers book better. That's why I tell people, go read it for yourself. See what works best for you. If I had started with the Dummies book, that's probably the only one I would have used. And that would have been fine. So see what works for you. There's got to be a combination out there that makes sense. Don't buy 7 books. Don't buy 3 books. Buy 2 at the max, and really you only need 1. And I think if you combine the books with the videos and then maybe throw a little bit of hands-on in there, I think you'll be fine.
All right, and do you have any hands-on activity on your page?
I don't personally on my site, but I do partner with these folks at Practice Labs. Those links are on my recommendation page as well. They make great labs for both the Core 1 and the Core 2. That's got Windows up. You can run through the Windows front end. It's incredibly powerful. You can run everything in a browser. Those may be good options for you, and have a look at what they offer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Professor Messer, for your help.
I appreciate the call. Thanks, Joanne. It really does become challenging. If you go out and just look at what Amazon Show Me Everything A+, it's just an amazing amount of information being thrown at you all at once. I get it there. I don't necessarily recommend the CompTIA book because I don't see it on Amazon. The ones I have seen on Amazon are the ones we've been using in the industry for years. And so that's the reason I support those and know what's there. Makes sense for me. This is one of those situations where there are, I guess for A+, I think there's probably 30 books out there. I just don't read through any of that stuff. I just don't have time to go through 30 books to figure out which one. Now let's rate them 1 through 30. I can't. For those of you, there's an opportunity. If somebody would like to review books, there's plenty of opportunity for that. Probably not going to be me, however. Back to 917 area code. Hi, caller. Which name are you calling from? Caller. Hello, caller.
Hi. My name is Pedro. I'm calling from the UK. I'm not going to be very extensive. I just want to thank you for all the material you've posted. And I just wanted to thank you very much for your videos. And I just started studying for A+ in February. And I've been listening to your study groups at work since 2019. I think it's when you started.
Wow.
And I catched up on January 2020 today. So I'm almost until the date of today. So I'm still starting to study for the Core 1 exam, and I'm really excited. And that's about it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to those, even when you weren't studying for your exam. And since you're in the UK, the good part is I'm seeing a little bit more activity in the UK around IT, especially around A+. So your timing may be very good as well, Pedro. Best of luck.
Thank you very much, Professor.
I appreciate the call. It was very kind of you. That's one where I mentioned earlier that depending on where you are in the world also dictates how valuable the certification is going to be. And I think that as well. I think that's a perfect place to go figure out, you should look to see what are employers looking for. I'm seeing a little bit more activity in the UK as well to have that. So that may work out just right for you timing wise. Back to the phones, the 864 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Professor Messer. It's Wesley from South Carolina. So I was looking and under the Network Plus, the study materials that you talked about, the resources, and down at the bottom, the study recommendations, the resource number 3, hands-on, and I click on Get the Labs. and there's no Network Plus labs there.
Oh,
And,
okay.
The A Plus says, sorry, this product is no longer available. So I was wondering, do they have the Network Plus labs, or is that even a thing?
Oh, see, you're now seeing the website management skills that I have in putting together these links. So no, of course they have a Network Plus set of labs available. It is on their site. I just need to put the proper link in place rather than the one that is there now. So if you give me some time right after this, I was thinking I'd be able to do it real quick while we were here on the phone. But they do have it on their site. You can click through on their site. You can find those links. They do have Network Plus. They have two options. You can either buy it with labs or with labs and exams. So it is available on their site. It's just me doing a really bad job with my web server management. But I will fix that when we're done here.
All right. I bought the whole bundle thing with you. I'm guessing that doesn't come with the labs or whatever.
It does not. The practice labs, they're a separate company with their own set of products. I don't sell their products directly. When you click that, as you've seen, you go out to that site and you're able to gain access to those labs. But I don't, on my site, offer them as, currently anyway, offer them as a pass-through or offer them as a separate product. Hopefully in the future, maybe in the future, I'll be able to do something like that, but they don't offer that right now either. So I think that's the difference in those two, is just trying to figure out how to pass them through. Currently, they do not come as part of my bundle now.
No problem. Thank you.
I appreciate the call. Thanks, Wesley. It also gives me the heads up. If ever anybody's ever on my site and you see something that, hey, that's not, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't look like it's a very good, doesn't look like it's quite right. You can always click the view to get at the top or bottom the contact us link, because it's usually something that I messed up and I can fix it, but I have to know that it's there so that I can fix it and making that happen. That might help you too. So I don't know if that does or not. I'm going to quickly, though, while you're there talking about that, make sure that the new links that I added to that page are working, and they are. So I will update the Network Plus right now. And so anybody else who is on this, studying for this, working through this in a number of minutes, that link will be available to you as well. Back to the phones, the 856 area code. Hi, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller. Am I muted?
Hello?
There we go. Hi, caller.
Yes, my name is Demola. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas.
Hello, Dallas, Texas. What can we do for you?
Yes, so I didn't know who you are till yesterday. I was on YouTube watching a bunch of videos about the A+ exam.
Right.
And a lot of people in the comments were mentioning your name. So I did a little research, and I found you on YouTube. I'm actually watching your session right now. So right now I work in IT. I work at a help desk at my school.
Great.
But I feel like I don't have enough technical knowledge. So I'm actually a master's student. I'm about to graduate. I'm trying to get a job in IT, and I've been doing a lot of research and seeing what are the steps I need to take. And I've been seeing a lot about the A+ exam. So I was doing the research about that. That's when I found you. So I just wanted to know, like, what are the steps I need to take? I was watching your YouTube session, and you've been talking about the materials on your site, and I saw the success bundle for $99. I was thinking about getting that one. Bundle, would I be able to pass the exam if I go through the whole thing, or do I need additional resources?
Well, one of the things I always mention in my success bundle is I give you everything you need except a book, because I don't write books. And there's so many books available on Amazon and elsewhere. And as I mentioned, books tend to be very subjective. Some people like different books over another. And quite honestly, a lot of people come to my site, they already have a book. They now need kind of the extra things, the course notes, the exams, having access to downloadable videos. Those are the things they're hoping to get their hands on. And that's what my Success Bundle focuses on, is on downloadable videos, course notes, practice exams. That comes with my Exam Hacks ebook, which is a book I wrote about how to take the test, not about the content of the test, but there are strategies in the test room where you can actually get some points by doing certain things. But unless you know those things are there, it might not even be obvious to you the first time you go in to take one of these exams. So things like that, I think, were important to document and put in there. That's what's in my Success Bundle. But I list out everything that comes in the Success Bundle on that page, and you can read through each one and say, all right, that's something I can use or that's something I won't use, and then you can decide whether that makes sense for you.
Right. Okay. So like you said, I'm a hands-on type of person too. I'd rather not read a book. I'd rather watch videos, instructional videos, and just do hands-on type of stuff. But if I have to get the book, I'll probably get the one you were talking about, the dummy one. Yes. So I was also going to ask, so the labs, so can you survive without the labs, or you have to do the labs?
For the A+, and basically for the A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, doing labs, I think, is a helpful extra step if you're studying. Because I mentioned all four of those things to you. I mentioned having the videos, a good book, hands-on, and Q&A. Can you get away with not doing one of them? You could. You could get away with not doing labs. You get away with not doing Q&A. In some cases, people have gotten away with not getting a book. They've just gone to the videos. I have a feeling most of those people, though, already had some prior experience with the technology not to have a book or not to need a book to do that. But I think if you wanted the best possible chance of passing, I think all four of those are going to help you in some way. Could you pass without labs? You could. But you're going to have to at least study up on those topics so that if it's presented to you to have to do something at a Windows desktop, that you could at least step through that Windows desktop exercise. And there are questions, for instance, on the Core 2 where you might be asked, here's a screen from Windows, here's the Windows desktop, perform this function, and you have to do that. And unless you've done it before, that may not be easy to do. That may be difficult to do that unless you've actually stepped through it before and had some experience for the Windows desktop. I think that's helpful if you've been through the lab. Even if you've never touched Windows before, you've done a lab on it, you've become accustomed to using it, you know where to click. It's something that can help you get through that problem a little bit better. So there are advantages and disadvantages, of course, but more resources in my mind is always better.
True. Yeah, so like I said, I work at a help desk right now, so I have good experience with like Windows and working with desktop computers and all that kind of stuff. So what would you say is like the recommended study time to prepare for this exam?
Yeah, if you're
I know like we all different and we work at different pace.
If you're on a help desk, you're getting a lab every day. You're labbing when you check in. When you check in every day, you sit down at your desk. You're labbing from the start of your day to the end of your day. As far as timing is concerned, for A+, so you could expand that out to 4 to 6 months average for people to do that. Now, some people are able to get through this content much faster. You're already working at a help desk. You may be able to get through the Core 2 content in a month and you're ready to take the exam because you already have familiarity with the control panel, with the administrative tools. You know what Active Directory is. You've already been through these things. You've already had to worry about those and troubleshoot those. So I think that's where, if you're ever in a situation where you have to figure out where do you go from here, what do you do, that's where I would recommend as well, having a look at that.
Okay. Thank you very much for the information. I'm probably going to subscribe to your channel. Just come here often and just get more information.
I appreciate that.
What you're doing.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
That's one where if you're starting out in this and you're starting to use these technologies, you're starting to work with these technologies, it does become a challenge. What do you do? What are the best things you should get? What tools make the most sense? I've got options on my side of things that make sense, but there are, of course, a number of things that are going to be important for you to consider during this process. And you should use every possible resource you can get your hands on to be able to do that. So on the website, there were a few questions that came in about expiration dates. And we'll answer these real quick. Let me bring up my notes because I keep track of all the expirations and when things are happening. For the A+, for those of you that are working on that A+ certification, we do know that the current set of exams was released in January of 2019. That would make the estimated retirement for the current A+ in July of 2022. So go to July of this year, a year from then. So as I mentioned, if the average is 4 to 6 months to study for both of those, well, that's well before July of 2022. So you're fine there. We also talked today about Security Plus. The current SY0501 retires on July 31st. The current 601 that was released in November doesn't retire until 2024. So that's not even something you have to worry about for the 601. And there was a question earlier about the N10-007, which is Network Plus. That exam, the updated version of that exam is the N10-008. That exam will be released in September of this year, which is pushing off a little further than what they thought it would be. So September is when that one comes out. That makes the estimated retirement for the current version March 2022. So a year from now, effectively, is where that is. So a year from now, if you're taking Network Plus, which means if you're taking Network Plus, keep taking the current Network Plus. You're going to be fine. So making that happen. That's the real key as you're working through all of these. I think those will kind of give you an idea of your timing of what you need to do to work through those problems. I think that figuring out the one you study for is the hardest part. And right now, just keep studying the current version and you're fine. The current Core 1 and Core 2, the 221001, the 221002, that's what you should be studying. Keep that one going. That is the course that will work best for you, trust me. There's no reason to wait until next summer to be able to get some type of newer exam. Ultimately, the type of questions they ask you aren't important. Having the certification in your pocket is the most important part of this. Wanting to get a new certification in the future doesn't get you a job. Having a certification in your pocket gets you a job. That's why I tell people never wait to get certified. Take the current exam, get the certification. You're never going to take the exam again once you're certified anyway. People who took the exam 10 years ago and got certified, who are still certified because they've renewed it, are just as A+ certified as someone who takes the exam today or someone who takes the exam in the future. So that's the key. Get the exam in your pocket, get that job, get that better job, get that increase in pay you've been looking for, get the flexibility in your job you've always wanted, get the job type that you've always wanted. It's all here in IT. It's there waiting for you. You just have to go get it. Well, that brings us to the end of our study group after show. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions from the chat room. Thank you for your calls and the things that you've sent in throughout the month. They do help so much. Come back in a couple days, in Thursday of this week at 12 noon Eastern Time. We do our Core 2 study group. We'll do the same thing all over again, but all the topics will be from the Core 2 exam. We'd love to have you come back and do some more Q&A with us. Thanks for joining us on this one. We will see you next time on the A+ study group. Thanks, everyone.